All right, good morning, YouTube. Welcome to our digital stream right here inside the Fox 5 DC newsroom here in Washington. Thanks for joining us. As you know, we are streaming the daily digital news, whatever is live and breaking coming into our newsroom here today. And we're going to start off with some really serious stories. Of course, the wildfire still spreading in Ventura County, California, just a day after that horrible mass shooting in Thousand Oaks, California. We're going to have that top story for you, as well as some more breaking stories. But first, President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump are off to Paris for a ceremony celebrating, of course, the 100th anniversary of Armistice Day. That's Veterans Day this coming Monday. President Trump had some words for reporters before getting on that plane to Paris this morning, so we're going to show you that and start with that. But as always, we'll break in with any breaking news, any live feeds that are coming into our newsroom here on this Friday, November 9th. Happy Friday to you all. Here's the president from this morning.
States will be there, and we look forward to that. It'll be a great, really commemorative service. I think it's going to be something very special. I've seen what they have planned, and I think it's going to be something very, very special. I just signed the proclamation on asylum, very important. People can come in, but they have to come in through the ports of entry, and that to me is a very important thing. Again, I reiterate, we need Democrats' votes. They have to pass new immigration laws because they're flooding our country. We're not letting them in, but they're trying to flood our country. We need the wall. We're building the wall, but we need it all built at one time and quickly. It's very important. We need Democrat support on new immigration laws to bring us up to date. The laws are obsolete and they're incompetent. They are the worst laws any country has anywhere in the world. And it's only because we don't have the Democrats' votes. So we need Democrat votes so we can change immigration. We'll have no trouble whatsoever at the border. We want people to come into our country, but they have to come into our country legally. They have to come into our country legally. We want people to come in through the merit system so that they can work for all of these great companies that I have coming into our country. We have many car companies coming in. We have many tech companies coming in. We have literally hundreds of companies moving back into the United States. We need people. We need to have, you see the unemployment numbers are at record lows. We need people in our country, but they have to come in legally and they have to have merit. They have to come in through a system of merit. We have everything worked out. We need some votes from the Democrats, or we need support from the Democrats, and hopefully they see what's going on. And the reason this is happening is we've created such a successful country economically that everybody is flooding into our country, or they want to, but we're stopping them at the border. And that's why we have our great military there.
Mr. President,
well, Matt Whitaker, I don't know Matt Whitaker. Matt Whitaker worked for Jeff Sessions, and he was always extremely highly thought of, and he still is. But I didn't know Matt Whitaker. He worked for Attorney General Sessions. He was very, very highly thought of, and still is highly thought of. But this only comes up because anybody that works for me, they do a number on them. But Matt Whitaker is a very smart man. He is a very respected man in the law enforcement community, very respected at the top of the line. And actually, the choice was greeted with raves initially, and it still is in some circles on, it's a shame that no matter who I put in, they go after him. It's very, very sad, I have to say. But he's acting. I think he'll do a very good job, and we'll see what happens. But I will say this. Matt Whitaker is a very highly respected man, and you didn't have any problems with Matt Whitaker when he worked for Jeff Sessions. He's respected by law enforcement. He's a very strong law enforcement personality and person. I didn't speak to Matt Whitaker about it. I don't know Matt Whitaker. Matt Whitaker has a great reputation, and that's what I wanted. I also wanted to do something which, frankly, I could have brought somebody very easily from the outside. I didn't want to do that. When Sessions left, what I did very simply is take a man who worked for Sessions. Again, he worked for Jeff Sessions. He's a highly respected man, especially by law enforcement, and I think he's going to do a great job. He's there in an acting position. He's probably, from what I hear, a very strong person, a very strong personality, and I think that's what they need. Who? You mean Mr. Kellyanne Conway?
He wrote that you were unconstitutionally appointing him to be wrong.
He's just trying to get publicity for himself. Why don't you do this? Why don't you ask Kellyanne that question? All right, all right. She might know him better than me. I really don't know the guy. But when you make a comment, first of all, let me speak, please. First of all, when you make comments, I see everybody on television, all these lawyers, all these law enforcement people making comment after comment. They never ask to get recused. They make comment. The fact that you go on Fox or CNN or MSNBC or anybody, you make a comment, you'd have nobody left to choose. You would have absolutely nobody left. I see different people at different times going on shows. Am I supposed to say, oh, now he's never qualified to serve in government? So all the time I'm watching many different people go on many different shows, saying many different things. That doesn't mean they're unqualified. Now, in all fairness to Matt Whitaker, who, again, I didn't know, okay, other than through reputation, his reputation is excellent. But in all fairness to him, he did some shows, so did many of the people that you're talking about. So did everybody that you're talking about a permanent position. I think everybody looking at a permanent position in any department has done many shows. Does that mean we can't hire anybody? We have to hire somebody that's in a shell? I don't think so. Say it again. You have to speak up. Well, it could be, because if you look at Broward and Palm Beach to a lesser extent, if you look at Broward County, they have had a horrible history. And if you look at the person, in this case a woman, involved, she has had a horrible history. And all of a sudden, they're finding votes out of nowhere. And Rick Scott, who won by, it was close, but he won by a comfortable margin. Every couple of hours, it goes down a little bit. And then you see the people, and they were involved with that fraud of the fake dossier, the phony dossier. And I guess I hear they were somehow involved or work with the GPS fusion people who have committed. I mean, you look at what they've done. You look at the dishonesty. Look. There's bad things have gone on in Broward County, really bad things. She's been to court. She's had a lot of problems. She's lost. I say this. He easily won, but every hour it seems to be going down. I think that people have to look at it very, very cautiously. What? I haven't ruled out anything. I haven't even thought about it. I'm thinking about the world. I'm thinking about, right now, I'm thinking about the world. I'm not thinking about sit-downs or not sit-downs. There was no collusion. It's a whole hoax. This was a thing set up by the Democrats, just like they set up other things when you look at what's going on in Florida, when you look at what's going on in lots of different locations. The Russian investigation is a hoax. It's a phony hoax. I didn't speak to Russians. The fact is, I was a much better candidate than Hillary Clinton. I worked much harder. I went to the right places. She went to the wrong places because she didn't know what the hell she was doing. I did a great job. I was a great candidate. She was a bad candidate. I went to Wisconsin. I went more to Michigan. I went to Pennsylvania. She didn't do a good job. This has nothing to do with Russians. It's a Russian hoax. Oh, Michelle Obama said that? I haven't seen it. I guess she wrote a book. She got paid a lot of money to write a book. And they always insist that you come up with controversial. Well, I'll give you a little controversy back. I'll never forgive him for what he did to our United States military by not funding it properly. It was depleted. Everything was old and tired. And I came in and I had to fix it. And I'm in the process of spending tremendous amounts of money. So I'll never forgive him for what he did to our military. I'll never forgive him for what he did in many other ways, which I'll talk to you about in the future. But what he did, because she talked about safety, what he did to our military made this country very unsafe for you and you and you. Well, we're looking at other people. I did not see Chris Christie yesterday. I heard he was in the White House. He's a friend of mine. He's a good man. When he got out of the presidential race, as you know, the next day he supported me. He has good taste. So he proved one thing: he has good taste. But when he got out, he immediately supported me. I like Chris Christie, but I have not talked to him about it. He was in the White House yesterday. He was in the White House yesterday, but I have not. I did not see him.
How long are you going to leave Jim Acosta in the penalty box?
I think Jim Acosta is a very unprofessional man. I think he does this with everybody. He gets paid to do that. You know, he gets paid to burst in. He's a very unprofessional guy. Whether it was me or Ronald Reagan or anybody else, he would have done the same thing. Look, I don't think he's a smart person, but he's got a loud voice. And here, wait, David, do you mind if I answer the question? And as far as I'm concerned, I haven't made that decision, but it could be others also. When you're in the White House, this is a very sacred place to me. This is a very special place. You have to treat the White House with respect. You have to treat the presidency with respect. If you've ever seen him dealing with Sarah Huckabee Sanders, it's a disgrace. And he does it for, you know, the reason. The same thing with April Ryan. I watch her get up. I mean, you talk about somebody that's a loser. She doesn't know what the hell she's doing. She gets publicity, and then she gets a pay raise, or she gets a contract with, I think, CNN. But she's very nasty, and she shouldn't be. She shouldn't be. You've got to treat the White House and the office of the presidency with respect. I see her nodding very positively, so I'll ask her, you know. You have to speak up, Doug. You have a helicopter raging back. For all the people that don't know why, my hearing is great, but you have a helicopter that's raging back there. In fact, do you remember Ronald Reagan? He'd always, what? I can't hear you. I always thought he was hard of hearing. He wasn't. That's the problem.
She wants to know what's going to happen when you meet with Putin.
Well, I'll meet with Putin at the G20. I don't know that we're seeing each other in Paris, but there may be a lunch for the leaders. I don't know. So I would say nothing. We have a good relationship. Having a good relationship with Russia and China and every other country is a good thing, not a bad thing. But we have a very good relationship.
Are you going to fire Ryan?
No, I'm going to look into any complaints. If there are any complaints, I'll look into it. Well, it was a political decision made by a judge. I think it's a disgrace. It's 48,000 jobs. I approved it. It's ready to start. And they went, and I guess they'll end up going to the Ninth Circuit as usual. We're slowly putting new judges in the Ninth Circuit. Everything goes to the Ninth Circuit. Everything. Now, DACA, that was actually good news yesterday because you never win in the Ninth Circuit if you're on this half of the equation. When I say half, it could be half or more. But you never win. You rarely win in the Ninth Circuit. The good news is, by rejecting DACA in the Ninth Circuit yesterday, finally, we've been waiting for that. We get to the Supreme Court, and we want to be in the Supreme Court on DACA. President Obama said he had no right to sign it. He had no right, but it was upheld in the Ninth Circuit, as usual. If you take President Obama's statement, he knew that he couldn't sign it. So this whole thing it's a terrible thing what's happening with the courts. The DACA will now hopefully go to the Supreme Court, where we'll be given a fair decision. We'll be making a decision. I have so many people who want it. We are looking at Heather. We're looking at numerous people. We have plenty of time. Nikki is staying until the end of the year. We're working with Nikki also. We have some very good people that want that job. I'll make the decision over the next few weeks, but by the end of the year. Well, I have some very, very good people, but, I mean, there's no rush. You know, it has to go through a Senate process, which takes a long time, but we'll pick somebody that's great. We're going to pick somebody that's very good. And again, I think it's Matt Whitaker is a highly respected man, but I didn't know Matt Whitaker, but he's a highly respected man.
Matt Whitaker has not gone through a Senate process.
Yeah, but neither has Mueller. Excuse me. You talk about the Senate process. Mueller is doing a report. He hasn't gone through the Senate process. So you're saying Whitaker hasn't, but Whitaker has. Wait a minute. Because he was a really distinguished U.S. attorney in Iowa, and he was approved by everybody, because to be U.S. attorney, that's top of the line. He was a highly respected. In fact, I'll tell you, the ambassador to China, as you know, Terry Branstad, who used to be the governor of Iowa, he told me that what a great choice that is, that he is one of the most respected people in all of Iowa. And that was coming from Terry Branstad, who was the governor. Look, Mueller, a big complaint people have, Mueller was not Senate confirmed. So he's doing a report. He wasn't Senate confirmed. Whitaker was Senate confirmed, and now he doesn't need this, but he was Senate confirmed at the highest level when he was the U.S. attorney from Iowa. But Mueller was not Senate confirmed. Why didn't they get him Senate confirmed? He should have been Senate confirmed. Because of all the conflicts, they didn't want to bring him before the Senate because he's very conflicted. So because of those conflicts, they didn't want to bring him before the Senate. But don't tell me about Whitaker. Don't tell me about Whitaker, because Mueller was not Senate confirmed. And Whitaker was, actually.
Sir, the Democrats keep picking up more.
It doesn't, whether they get a couple of more House seats doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But you notice the votes never go the other way? They hire lawyers, and the votes don't ever seem to go the Republican way. Although I hear, well, I don't know, you tell me, it's always the Democrats. It's always GPS fusion. It's always crooked stuff. Look at what happened. How many FBI are gone? How many Justice Department people are gone? That I found out. There's a lot of bad stuff going on in this country, and we're finding out, and I'm getting to the bottom of it. And I've done a hell of a job. How many people have been fired from the FBI? You got Comey, you got McCabe, you got Strzok, you have Lisa Page, you have Baker, you have a whole list of people. There's a lot of crooked stuff going on. But it is interesting. It always seems to go the way of the Democrats. Now in Arizona, all of a sudden, out of the wilderness, they find a lot of votes, and the other candidate is just winning by a hair. What's going on in Florida is a disgrace. Go down and see what happened over the last period of time, 10 years. Take a look at Broward County. Take a look at the total dishonesty of what happened with respect to Broward County. Broward County, just press, Broward County /election. There's a lot of dishonesty.
Why do press secretaries share a doctor's video of the incident, of the fake video?
The taped video of Costa? What are you talking about? All that was, nobody manipulated it. Give me a break. See, that's just dishonest reporting. All that is a close-up. See, that is just dishonest reporting. I watched that. I heard that last night. They made it close up. They showed it close up. And he was not nice to that young woman. I don't hold him for that, because it wasn't overly, horrible. But all that was, when you say doctor, you're a dishonest guy, because it wasn't doctored. They gave a close-up view. That's not doctoring.
Mr. President, are you thinking about more Supreme Court justices in the hospital?
No, I wish her well. She said something very inappropriate during the campaign, but she apologized for it. I wouldn't say she's exactly on my side, but I wish her well. I hope she gets better, and I hope she serves in the Supreme Court for many, many years. Terrible, terrible.
What are we going to do about
He's a very sick, it's a mental health problem. He is a very sick puppy. It was a very, very sick guy. Not too many people knew about it, but now that they're looking, they're starting to see he had a lot of problems, a lot of trouble, and we're very much into that. As you know, I funded a lot of money toward mental health for that reason, and we're continuing to do it, and we continue to look at the laws. We want to make sure, look, it is a problem. It's a disastrous problem. It makes you sick to look at it. But he was a very, very mentally ill person. Say it.
Firearms play any part of this mental health conversation?
Well, he was a war veteran. He was a Marine. He was in the war. He served time. He saw some pretty bad things. And a lot of people say he had the PTSD. And that's a tough deal. We're spending, as you know, I've given tremendous funding to the vets for the PTSD and for general health for PTSD. It's a big problem. People come back. That's why it's a horrible thing. They come back. They're never the same.
Are you prepared to fly that flag at half-mast a lot more?
Well, I don't like abusing any privilege, but when I see something that we should do, I always do that. Yeah, I always do that.
Are you going to California?
I believe you should. When it's a worthy situation, I do believe it.
The USMCA?
It's up to him.
Do you want him to rein in Robert Mueller?
What a stupid question that is. What a stupid question. But I watch you a lot. You ask a lot of stupid questions. We're working well because other things have come up, and we will be signing it soon.
It's a political stunt?
No. We're signing it. We're doing it, and it'll probably work its way up to the Supreme Court. Birthright citizenship probably works its way up to the Supreme Court. It will be signed. We wanted a perfect document. And because of the election and all of the delays in the election and whatever's going on in Broward County, remember the word, Broward County.
Is there any evidence of
Wait, well, you take a look at the past. Take a look at the past. And all of a sudden they're finding votes. You mean after the election, they're finding votes? And then you look at her past where she's already been convicted, and now they're finding votes. And you have this guy, Elias, who represented Hillary Clinton and a lot of very shady things. I think what you ought to do is get smart. Good luck, folks. I'll see you in Europe.
All right, so that was the president with some pretty lengthy remarks there for the media this morning. That was just ahead of him getting on Marine One and getting off to Paris with Melania Trump, First Lady. And they're there to meet with some world leaders, but also to be part of this commemorative service for World War I. The 100th anniversary is this coming Monday. It's really hard to believe. 1918, of course, when World War I ended. That was Armistice Day, November 11th, 11th day, 11th hour. And so we're actually going to be streaming whatever sort of ceremonies we have going on in D.C. for that. It'll be a pretty beautiful, exciting Monday for us. So make sure you hang on with us for that and come on to our stream on Monday, because there'll be some very special commemorative services for the anniversary of World War I. So that's pretty exciting for this coming week. Other than that, we have some other major stories this today on this Friday. Those California wildfires, definitely our top story. We're going to have that story for you in just a second. Hitting Ventura County just a day after that mass shooting in California, so they're really getting hit hard with some stories. And then some other sort of fallout from Jeff Sessions leaving his post as U.S. Attorney General, and other news in politics. So take a look at these stories.
It was absolutely horrifying.
It's one of the fastest moving wildfires in years. Northern California once again dealing with evacuations, destroyed homes and businesses, and burned out roads. The hardest hit area, Paradise, California. The entire town of 27,000 people ordered to evacuate. Many are saying it seems like the entire town is on fire.
It's just numb. I don't know what to think. What's going to happen now?
We don't know.
We have nothing now.
Things aren't much better down south, where a pair of wildfires is moving quickly along the Ventura-Los Angeles County line. Some 75,000 homes under evacuation orders there, and firefighters say there's no telling when they'll get containment.
The challenge also for us is that we are at the beginning of a significant Santa Ana wind event that will last a number of days. Right now we have somewhere between 400 and 500 firefighters on scene.
Those strong Santa Ana winds combining with low humidity to create difficult conditions for fire crews here. And it's expected to continue for at least another day. The National Weather Service now issuing red flag warnings throughout the state, while officials ramp up their response, doing their best to reassure anxious residents they won't be forgotten.
They'll be going back maybe today or something, you know, and we might never go back. I don't know. It's hard.
The governor has declared a state of emergency and has requested a federal emergency declaration. In Butte County, California, Claudia Cowan, Fox News.
People here say it's a pretty close-knit community. Tonight, they're even closer, united in the wake of tragedy.
For a town of 100,000 plus people, it's you know, everybody knows everybody.
A public display of grief after a mass shooting.
I just wanted to be out here to give my support to the officers.
Wednesdays are college country night at the Borderline Bar and Grill, popular with students from nearby Pepperdine and California Lutheran universities. This week was different. Investigators say Ian David Long, a 28-year-old former Marine, shot a bouncer, made his way inside, and indiscriminately fired a handgun. Sergeant Ron Helis, the first officer to go inside, was shot and killed. 11 others were also murdered.
There were 11 victims inside the bar earlier today, last night. Those victims have been identified, and their family members have been notified.
Another victim, Jason Kaufman's son, Cody. Kaufman emotionally remembered Cody soon after learning he died.
Last thing I said was, "Son, I love you."
State, local, and federal investigators are searching for answers. They say the gunman, who served in Afghanistan, likely killed himself. They also say he may have suffered from PTSD, but wouldn't say that was the motive.
Why would someone come into some place where people come just to have fun?
This is the safest city in America, and take note, it can happen anywhere.
18-year-old Elena Housley also died. She was a freshman at Pepperdine University. Her parents told Fox News that she would have enjoyed the debate that's sure to follow after this tragedy, but would have insisted it be respectful. In Thousand Oaks, Ray Bogan, Fox News.
Senior House and Senate Democrats sent preservation letters to the administration, intelligence agencies, and FBI for all records relevant to the special counsel Russia investigation, as well as the resignation of Attorney General Jeff Sessions. With control of the House in January, they took aim at the new acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker.
We can insist that the documents be preserved in this transition, and also demand the recusal of Mr. Whitaker, who has demonstrated a pretty clear conflict of interest. But, you know, we may have been a lot, more powerless in the past, but that's not the case now.
Democrats highlighted Whitaker's July 2017 interview about cutting funding for special counsel Robert Mueller if Attorney General Jeff Sessions was out.
Well, I can see a scenario where Jeff Sessions is replaced with a recess appointment, and that Attorney General doesn't fire Bob Mueller, but he just reduces his budget so low that his investigation grinds to almost a halt.
With the president asking for Sessions' resignation, Whitaker now oversees the Justice Department and the special counsel Russia investigation. Sessions' March 2017 recusal from the Russia probe drove a wedge between himself and the president.
There will be, of course, an investigation here about whether the president deliberately did this to obstruct the investigation.
On Fox, the counselor to the president said the Justice Department shakeup is not about disruption.
I think it's very commendable and notable that the president is arguing for a continuum by having the chief of staff to the attorney general, who's been there for over a year on the job, be the acting attorney general, quote, until a permanent replacement can be nominated, and keeping in his job the deputy attorney general, Mr. Rosenstein.
A leading constitutional law expert said calls for Whitaker to recuse himself based on TV interviews and tweets are without legal merit.
There's a difference between a lawyer as a commentator and a lawyer as an acting attorney general. The suggestion that he's going to throw away all of his legal training and ethics to be, as CNN said, a stooge is rather unfair.
In a tweet, two senators, outgoing Republican Jeff Flake and Democrat Chris Coons, said they will push for a floor vote when the Senate convenes next week on legislation that would protect Special Counsel Robert Mueller. Consideration of the bill would require the consent of all senators. In Washington, Catherine Herridge, Fox News. In a tweet, two senators, outgoing Republican Jeff Flake and Democrat Chris Coons, said they will push for a floor vote when the Senate convenes next week on legislation that would protect Special Counsel Robert Mueller. Consideration of the bill would require the consent of all senators. Shannon?
Two days after the election, thousands of mail-in votes still being counted in Broward County.
Sometimes it takes a little extra time to make sure that we get the outcome that the voters intended.
All eyes on Broward County as the race for the U.S. Senate seat between Rick Scott and Bill Nelson narrows.
We have 8 high-speed counters in there, and I'm told they can do 23,000 sheets per hour.
Voters lining up outside the Supervisor of Elections office in Lauderhill saying their votes have not been counted.
This is really important for us. This is really important for all of us.
Discrepancies in the number of votes now taking center stage. In Broward, more than 24,000 people voted for governor than in the Senate race. Some say it was placement on the ballot. Bill Nelson's attorney saying there could be problems with the machines.
They are always undervoted. Sometimes they are far more in some instances than in others.
However, lawyers for Bill Nelson do not agree, showing up to the canvassing board along with attorneys for Gillum to look over each vote that has not been accepted. The whole ordeal reminiscent of the 2000 election where a recount made hanging chads a household name.
It has been a little while since we all went through this, but we know that we know that Broward County is where the votes are.
Marco Rubio tweeting, Broward election supervisors are violating the law and are incompetent. Dr. Snipes is clapping back.
We ran 22 sites. We ran 14 days. We ran 12 hours. We had a big vote by mail. So don't try to turn it around to make it seem like I'm making comedy out of this.
Hundreds of people filled Federal Plaza tonight to stand up against President Trump and his choice to replace Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Some demonstrators say that they are worried that the new acting Attorney General is just a puppet of the president. For more than 2 hours, the protesters rallied downtown, marching through the Loop to Trump Tower on the Chicago River. They say they want to protect Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into Russia's interference in the 2016 election.
We have to do as much as we can to make our voices heard.
The protesters are calling for the new acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker to recuse himself from the investigation. He could end up overseeing the Mueller investigation, of which he's publicly given his opinion, stating there was no collusion.
I think that it should be fully investigated. If there's nothing to hide, then I think that there's no reason why it should be stopped.
Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein was second in line to Attorney General, but was picked over by the president. Up until now, Rosenstein was in charge of overseeing the investigation.
Having Trump handpick and leapfrog the deputy Rosenstein to be put in charge of the Department of Justice is kind of nerve-wracking.
These Chicagoans were not the only ones. Demonstrations took place all over the country, including in New York City's Times Square. White House Counselor Kellyanne Conway says the firing of Attorney General Jeff Sessions is, quote, not a constitutional crisis, as Democrats have called it.
We have not impeded it at all. We had an Attorney General who was recused from it. We now don't have an acting Attorney General who's recused from it. Nobody wants to prolong it.
There is talk of another similar protest this weekend, perhaps on Saturday, in downtown Chicago.
It is extraordinary how close some of these races are in Arizona, Georgia, and especially Florida, where 2 statewide races could come down to recounts. Remember this? The Florida Bush versus Gore recount from 2000? 18 years later, perhaps only the contests and the candidates have changed.
There may be rampant fraud happening in Palm Beach and Broward counties.
A Florida governor turned Senate hopeful, Rick Scott, with a press conference outside the governor's mansion last night. As the Senate race between Scott and Bill Nelson heads closer to a recount, the two counties in question, the Democratic strongholds of Palm Beach and Broward, keep tallying additional ballots, thousands of them. Broward's election supervisor says it simply takes time.
We ran 22 sites. We ran 14 days. We ran 12 hours. We had a big vote by mail. So don't try to turn it around to make it seem like I'm making comedy out of this.
The current Democratic Senator Bill Nelson, who is behind in the count so far, brought in a prominent Democratic attorney to lead the fight for his seat, which could be decided in a recount.
We did not seek this recount. Senator Nelson did not ask for this, did not put out the statement he did because it is automatic, but rather because we believe that at the end of this process, Senator Nelson is going to be declared the winner.
And the Florida gubernatorial race may also be headed for a recount. Republican Ron DeSantis leads Democrat Andrew Gillum by less than a half a point. The high-profile governor's race in Georgia could wind up in a runoff if it continues to tighten. And in Arizona, the Senate contest between Republican Martha McSally and Democrat Kyrsten Sinema has swung each way, and the legal battle has already begun. And those Senate races especially could have some big ramifications here on Capitol Hill. They could determine the degree to which Republicans are able to build on their majority in the Senate. In Washington, Doug Luzader, Fox News.
I spoke with Mrs. Carlson tonight. She didn't want to talk on camera, but says that she feels that it's sad that people are so angry. Clearly, it is very upsetting that a group of people would target the home of a public figure like this. Now, we're not going to play the video, but here's audio from a cell phone recording of the group chanting. It happened last night. Carlson saying the group rang his doorbell, cracked a part of his front door, and mentioned a pipe bomb. Susie Carlson, who was home alone, hid in the kitchen pantry and called police. The group eventually scattered as police arrived, and officers discovered an anarchy symbol spray painted on the driveway. It remains there tonight. The police report describes the incident as a suspected hate crime. MPD putting out a statement saying there is currently an open criminal investigation. Smash Racism, which calls itself an Antifa group on social media, claimed responsibility and tweeted Carlson's home address, which is a violation of Twitter's rules. Its profile is now suspended. This is the same group who confronted Senator Ted Cruz inside a D.C. restaurant during Justice Brett Kavanaugh's Supreme Court hearing. Carlson was absent from his show tonight, citing a previously scheduled vacation, but he called in, saying the incident at his home wasn't a protest, but a threat. You're about to hear from him and D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser.
I can't have my kids stay home alone now. I'm a normal person. I live in a normal neighborhood. I'm not a talk show host when I get off the air. I'm a father. I don't want to have those battles in my personal life. I don't think most people do, and now they've brought it right to my house. And I don't want to whine. I'm not a victim. I'm a happy person, but you can see why I wouldn't like that and why I'd feel threatened by it and why I think that this is a threat to free expression to all of us. And I mean that.
Going after individuals like this, whether it's in public or at their homes, is it something that you're concerned about?
It would concern me for anyone to be threatened at their home or in a public place. People can exercise their First Amendment rights lawfully, but when they cross the line, that's when we want our police department to fully investigate and find out who's responsible.
Carlson said that he thinks one of the people there last night has been a guest on his show in the past. Fox News issued a statement calling the threats completely unacceptable and saying that as a nation, we have become far too intolerant of different points of view, and those of us in the media and in politics bear a special obligation to find common ground.
As long as I can do the job full steam, I will do it.
Tracking the health of Supreme Court justices has long been a favorite Washington parlor game, and Justice Ginsburg's admittance to a D.C. hospital early this morning has the Capitol's full attention.
We're praying for her, and we know how tough she is. I've known her for many, many years. Got to see her just a few weeks ago here at the swearing-in of Justice Kavanaugh, so she'll be in our prayers.
The court says she suffered a fall while working out of her Supreme Court office last night and checked herself into George Washington University Hospital with 3 fractured ribs on her left side.
She has a history of a cardiac stent put in 2014. She's overcome cancer twice, including pancreatic cancer. She survived that several years ago, so she's tough. She's one tough cookie.
At 85, she's the oldest Supreme Court justice, though Stephen Breyer trails behind her by only 5 years. Both were appointed to the bench by President Clinton. Ginsburg is well known for taking pride in her physical fitness. She exercises with a personal trainer often, and only recently insisted she has no plans to retire anytime soon.
Thank you very much.
As for President Trump, it's no secret he'd like a third chance to fill a Supreme Court vacancy, Ginsburg's seat in particular.
She's a disgrace to the Supreme Court. For her to politicize the Supreme Court, to come out and to say the kind of things, there's almost something wrong with her.
So far, the appointments of Justices Gorsuch and Kavanaugh have been winning issues for the president. They've bolstered his conservative base and will undoubtedly help to solidify his legacy. In Washington, Jillian Turner, Fox News.
Amazing grace. The city of Thousand Oaks holding a vigil Thursday night to remember the dozen killed and many others injured after a gunman opened fire inside the Borderline Bar and Grill.
We are a hurting city, but we are a community of love, of compassion, and of unity. We are also a community of hope.
Cell phone video from a person inside the bar capturing some of the terrifying sounds from the deadly attack. According to the person taking the video, the shadowy figure in the distance is the shooter. The sighting followed quickly by sounds of glass breaking and gunshots. Those killed in the attack slowly being identified. They include 18-year-old Elena Housley, a freshman at Pepperdine University. She's the niece of former Fox News senior correspondent Adam Housley and his wife, Tamara Mowry Housley. 21-year-old Jake Dunham, who lived in Newbury Park, just west of where the shooting took place. Dan Manrique, a former Marine Corps radio operator and head of the Ventura County chapter of veterans nonprofit Team Red, White, and Blue. And Marky Meza, a busboy and food runner, who was just weeks away from his 21st birthday. ATF and FBI agents raiding the home of the suspected gunman, 28-year-old Ian David Long. They're hoping to find out what caused the former Marine and war veteran to start shooting. Jackie Ibanez, Fox News.
The captain of the vessel always has a duty to operate his vessel in a safe manner.
The indictment alleges 51-year-old Kenneth Scott McKee of Verona, Missouri, committed numerous acts of misconduct, negligence, and inattention to duties, which caused the deaths of 17 people.
We've alleged several specific instances of either neglect or misconduct or inattention to duty that either specifically or cumulatively contributed to the sinking of this boat.
The indictment says McKee drove the duck boat into the water even though there was lightning in the area and severe weather approaching. When the winds picked up and the storm struck, the indictment says McKee failed to tell passengers to put on their life preservers, and he failed to immediately increase speed and take the most direct route to shore. The government says he allowed plastic side curtains to be lowered, which created barriers to getting out of the boat in an emergency.
And specifically, he operated the vessel in weather which generated wind speeds and wave heights which exceeded those for which this particular vessel was rated.
The indictment says McKee failed to prepare to abandon ship when there was an unacceptable loss of freeboard. Freeboard is the distance from the water line to the deck of the boat. When water comes over the top of the boat, filling it with water, that's called losing freeboard. The U.S. Attorney says these are just the first charges in what's expected to be an expanding criminal investigation.
We owe that to the victims and the surviving family members of this tragedy. We also owe that to the public, which has an important interest in seeing that this statute is enforced.
McKee faces up to 10 years in prison on each count with no chance for parole and up to a $250,000 fine. John Pepitone, Fox 4 News.
Immigration, healthcare, and the economy, all issues Democrats and Republicans say they want to work on when the 116th Congress convenes in January. But there are possible agenda items expected to cause fireworks on Capitol Hill.
Democrats have said they plan to use their new control of the House as a power check for President Trump, suggesting investigations into his tax returns and prior business dealings. And next week, Senators Jeff Flake and Chris Coons have promised legislation to protect special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation following the resignation of former Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Senator Lindsey Graham calling concerns over the investigation hysteria.
I am here to tell you and everybody else that Mr. Mueller will be allowed to do his job.
And while there's a party divide between the two chambers, there's also a battle for power within each party in the House. Current Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi has announced her bid for Speaker of the House, a job she's held before. But there are rumblings from some incoming Democrats they want a fresh face.
I don't think this is a done deal yet. To me, it's bigger than me. It's bigger than Nancy Pelosi. It's about the long-term agenda.
While Republican leaders now faced with the reality of being a minority in the House, saying one of their biggest priorities is winning majority back.
We will listen, we'll be on the offensive, and we'll have solutions for problems.
On the House Republican side, the current number 2, Kevin McCarthy, saying he hopes to become party leader next year, but he's expected to have competition from Jim Jordan, who is a leader of the powerful House Freedom Caucus. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News. The Democrat takeover of the House means a new speaker will soon be in charge, but whether that will be a party veteran or a rising star remains to be seen. With the Democrats retaking a majority in the House in the midterm elections, new questions arise about whether party leader Nancy Pelosi will return to her role as speaker. She's already gotten one surprise endorsement from President Trump.
I think she deserves it. She's fought long and hard. She's a very capable person.
I heard the president say, I deserve to be the speaker. I don't think anybody deserves anything. It's not about what you have done. It's what you can do.
Some fresh faces entering the House are calling for new leadership to stand up to President Trump, with political analysts saying the party could benefit from a youth movement.
They are all near 80. Where is the younger generation of Democrats? Because they're not going to lead Democrats back to power with a leadership team like that.
On the Republican side, Congressman Jim Jordan and Kevin McCarthy have announced bids to become House Minority Leader. Jordan, a co-founder of the House Freedom Caucus, has long been critical of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation. McCarthy, the current number 2 in the House, is seen as the favorite to succeed Paul Ryan in leading the GOP. Party leaders will hold internal votes before the end of the year. Official votes won't come until early January. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
County, you have LA City, you have Ventura County, all joining together here to fight this fire. And this is kind of a bit of a command post, the Conejo Creek South Park area, which is right across the street from the teen center, which is now turned into one of many evacuation centers for these evacuees of this fire. So many people literally awoken straight out of bed. Many had to rush out and evacuate their area, their neighborhoods, put under mandatory evacuation. A lot of people came with the clothes on their back, loaded up their cars, and just rushed to safety. And it's been very scary and as you might imagine, very traumatic and very upsetting for so many people. So we have a little podium set up here, and we have officials now standing in line. So many of them here waiting for this press conference to begin. And as I said, we did get a 2-minute warning a few minutes ago. So they are gearing up to tell us the very latest. As we know, we're hoping to get the latest on the acreage as well as the evacuations. I don't think they have an exact number of homes burned, but we're going to find that out as well. And you know, Malibu, a very desperate situation at this point. Malibu evacuation orders running from Las Virgenes all the way down to the LA County line. And, you know, Malibu with PCH, it can bottleneck in there. It can be tough to get in and out. So that's something that we're going to certainly ask them about as well. So many questions, but we're hoping to get a better sense of what's happening. So let's see. It looks like they're getting ready to open up this news conference. So let's go ahead and listen in.
My name's Tony and Brenda, Public Information Officer, LA County Fire Department. I'd like to welcome you all to the press briefing for the Woolsey Fire this afternoon. I have representatives from Ventura County Board of Supervisors and representatives from our Unified Command present. They're going to give brief statements, and then after their statements, they will be available to you all for breakouts to answer individual questions. I'd like to welcome up to the podium first Chairman of the Board of Supervisors for Ventura County, Mr. Peter Foy.
It's been a very difficult time here in Ventura County, and now it's also moved into LA County, as we all know. And I just want to say I appreciate all the hard work and all the effort everybody's doing. One of the things I would like to say is that as fire continues to tell people, in these mandatory evacuations, please get out. Just listening to some of the things where our sheriff's department and deputies and officers are having to help people get out when they get into trouble, that's a key. We put people's lives at risk, especially all of our first responders, when we don't get out in time. So I just would ask everybody to do that. And I want to thank people. You know, this last 48 hours, 72 hours in Ventura County has been a difficult time. I appreciate everybody's efforts and kind prayers for all the people from our victims that lost their lives in a shooting to now what's happening, people losing their homes. It's a difficult time. So if you can help your neighbors, we really appreciate that. But also, when the sheriffs come to your house and say it's time to go, please get out. They're only here to take care of you and to help you, and don't let them get hurt because of what we don't do. So thank you for the opportunities.
Next, I'd like to welcome up to the podium Ventura County Supervisor Linda Parks.
Good morning. My district here is in Thousand Oaks, and our hearts still go out from the tragedy of just yesterday. So we are still reeling, but we are also very resilient. This is a very stressful time. Many of our first responders haven't slept, and throughout the state of California there are fires, so there isn't as much support as we need. But we are resilient, and the most important thing is to be safe. As was said, you have a mandatory evacuation, leave. We don't want any tragedies. We don't want any deaths. We don't want any injuries. So please be safe out there. Call or go to vcemergency.org, and you can get right away. You can get information about where the fires are, what's happening in your area, good information there, and please be safe out there. Thank you.
Also present but not speaking, we have Ventura County Supervisor Kelly Long and State Assemblywoman Jackie Irwin. Next up, I'd like to bring up a member of our Unified Command, Ventura County Fire Chief Lorenzen.
Good morning. Yesterday we had two significant fires start. One at 2 p.m., the Hill Fire just off of or north of the Conejo grade. That fire is about 6,000 acres now. Fortunately for us, it is burning into the old footprint of the Springs fire from 2013, and the fire activity there has diminished and allowed us to focus a little bit more heavily on this fire that started yesterday at 3 p.m., the Woolsey fire. It's approximately, well, it's 10,000 plus acres, and it's jumped the 101 freeway. We have many hundreds of firefighters here on the fire lines right now, many more on order. What I'd really like to focus on is some of the successes we had yesterday. With our partners from throughout the region, local government agencies were able to robustly respond up here, protect structures, and especially with the help of our law enforcement partners, quickly evacuate our communities in advance of the wildland fire. Fortunately, there have not been any civilian fatalities as a result of lack of evacuations. We know we have a number of structures that were lost during the firefight overnight, but we will continue to bring in local government resources to protect our communities. Thank you.
Next up, from the Los Angeles Fire Department, Assistant Chief Corey Rose.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long night. I just want to thank the community for being so resilient and listening to these evacuation orders. It's never easy to do that. The city fire department is here to assist our partner agencies in primarily protecting structures. We have a number of fire engines in the Bell Canyon area right now actively engaged in firefighting, and also have resources including helicopters and a lot of personnel in all areas of the fire and assisting our cooperators here. What makes this a good thing with this group here is we've done this together, unfortunately, but it's a great team, and it's one team with these different departments working together. So we want to thank the community again, and our number one value at risk is the community and those lives that are out there, and that's what we're here to do, is protect those lives. So thank you.
Next up, from the Los Angeles County Fire Department, Chief Deputy David Richardson.
Good morning, David Richardson, Unified IC for the Woolsey incident. As mentioned, we are in Unified Command, Ventura County Fire Department, Los Angeles Fire Department, as well as Cal Fire, as well as our law enforcement agencies, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Ventura County Sheriff's Department, and Los Angeles Police Department as well. As we progress and put a plan together to combat this fire, as we can see, if you look around, there's many challenges. We have a column of smoke behind you here that still continues to burn in Ventura County, and we have some ominous columns of smoke over the Santa Monica Mountains. Early this morning, as the fire transitioned through Agora Hills, fire jumped the freeway, the 101 freeway, right around Liberty Canyon, mid-slope, caught wind, and became quickly established and where we're at today. Currently, the fire is south of Mulholland. It's actually south of Tunnel 1 for those that are familiar with the community. We ask that our community members heed our direction and warning, leave early. We've professed and preached throughout the last few months, the past year, ready, set, go. Each of our communities should be ready to pack up and leave at a moment's notice. We have over 300 Los Angeles County firefighters here, and as mentioned, collectively, that's going to grow as we continue to battle this fire and as it is headed towards the Pacific Ocean. With that, we're going to call up next our law enforcement partners to provide some additional evacuation information. Thank you.
Next up, from the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, Chief John Benedict.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. This community has suffered many tragic events just over the last couple of days, and this being another one of those. I want to thank all the residents that have been involved in our evacuation process and that have heeded our warnings in order to evacuate. Right now, we have evacuations that are going on, as the chief said, south of the 101 freeway, literally between the Ventura County line and Las Virgenes Canyon Road, all the way down to the coast of Malibu, Pacific Coast Highway. Right now we have some congestion with folks trying to get out of the area, and I would ask that those folks, if they could, start moving down towards the coast and then towards Santa Monica area on the Pacific Coast Highway in order to egress out of the affected area. We also have some evacuations that have been going on throughout the night, throughout the cities of Calabasas, Hidden Hills, Agora, and Westlake Village. And I want to thank again those residents that have heeded those evacuation notices. We also have some shelters set up for those folks that need that. Right now, for the folks that are on this side of the hill, meaning the 101 side, we have an area in the Simi Valley area, which is the Rancho Santa Susana Rec Center at 5005 Los Angeles Avenue, and also at Taft High School. For those that have animals that need shelter, Pierce College is now completely full, so we would ask those residents that have animals that need shelter to move those animals to Handsome Dam, which is near between the 5 and the 210 freeway. For those that need shelter over towards the Malibu area, they could start moving towards Will Rogers State Beach, which is near Temescal Canyon. Again, if you are evacuating, make sure that you have all of your personal documents, your medication, your identification, and anything that you might think that you're going to need down the road. This thing moves fast, and you need to be prepared. So if you're ready to go, go. And if you're being told to go, get out of there. So I want to thank you all, and safe speed.
Thank you. This concludes our press briefing this afternoon. Our Unified Command partners will now be available to you all for individual breakout interviews. Thank you.
And there you have it. I think they're going to bring a few more people to the podium to answer some questions. They were going to do it individually, but it looks like they're going to bring some folks to the podium.
At this point, is the wind behaving about as you expected it would be with the forecast and it kind of peaking around this morning? Can anybody speak to what the wind is doing?
Well, give us your name and title, too, please.
Yes, David Richardson, the Chief Deputy, Los Angeles County Fire Department, Unified IC, Incident Commander. So the question is regarding the wind. Is the wind predicted? Did it come to fruition? The answer is yes. And the wind and the weather predictions are playing out where, in fact, as I mentioned earlier, we had the fire jump with the 101 freeway. That was the predicted height of the wind for the early this morning at approximately 5 a.m. this morning, where that fire jumped the freeway. So as we move forward, you know, we have predictions, but we don't know what Mother Nature is going to give us, and that's the reality of what we're faced with.
And the losses overnight, do you think that you did better than you would expect under these conditions? Or do you know?
Well, I think we put our best plan forward in a life preservation mode to get people out of harm's way. When you have 40, 50, 60 mile an hour winds blowing fire at your heels, the importance is to get people out of harm's way and get them to safety. Unfortunately, with that, in trying to get people out of harm's way, it takes up resources in providing defense for structures. And we're currently assessing. We don't have a number of structures damaged at this point in time, but I would imagine we get to that point, it will be significant.
What are the command objectives right now in terms of, what are you guys trying to contain? What are the boundaries that you want this fire to keep contained within?
So the boundary, first and foremost, is life safety. Life of those constituents, those community members, is paramount for us. Additionally, with that is the safety of our firefighters. These are difficult conditions out there, tough conditions, where firefighters can be quickly entrapped in a bad situation, especially we're talking about operating canyon roads. So those are some of the priorities. As far as containment, we have established a perimeters, if you will, and unfortunately, due to the fire crossing, the perimeter now is the Pacific Ocean on the south end.
How about from the Pacific Ocean?
So we have Highway 23, east of Highway 23, west of Valley Circle, Box Canyon, and south of Los Angeles Street in Simi Valley.
You said that you had a lot of challenges. What were the challenges specifically?
The challenges are, number one, competing resources for the multitude of fires. We all know this was the second fire that occurred in Ventura County, and it's on the heels of what's happened up in Northern California, where they've had devastating loss in Butte County up Northern California. So we have a competing of resources, and you probably know all better than I, but from what I understand, there's been entire communities impacted up Northern California.
Is the wind at all limiting what you can do as far as an air attack?
It is limiting. However, I can tell you our skilled pilots, our firefighters, we've been flying around the clock and providing those air support and water drops. Additionally, today we have fixed wing aircraft, very large air tanker, I believe, dropped earlier this morning, and trying to get some containment lines established. Absolutely, we're concerned, and we're working. We've worked through the night to establish a plan to develop those decision points to have people evacuate. And again, it goes back to the ready, set, go concept. When we say you need to leave, you need to leave. You need to give us an opportunity to get in there and protect your property. and not have to deal with life safety issues.
You've been watching the latest on these wildfires in Ventura County, California, absolutely devastating this area. Lots of information there. But I want to flip it over to another live event that we have going on right now. The office of the mayor of Pittsburgh, is hosting and sort of opening up this ceremony to remember the 11 victims of that horrible synagogue shooting. In this ceremony, it's in the pouring rain. There are many people who have come out to honor these 11 people. Let's check it out.
And declares in a loud voice, Chazak, Chazak, Benit Chazek. It translates as, be strong, and we will be strengthened. This resilient city of Pittsburgh will be strong, and we will be strengthened by each other. Our Pittsburgh Jewish community is strengthened by your support. May those wounded have a speedy recovery, and may the memories of our 11 murdered Jews be forever as a blessing.
How we doing? I can't tell you how great it is in this weather you all showed up. Just fantastic. Thanks very much. I'm going to make this really quick. I'm going to introduce someone who I've known for a while, because not only was her husband my employer, but a friend, Mr. Rogers. And right standing to my right is a guy they call Tom Terrific, because he's a terrific actor, a terrific man, and he was terrific to show up here today. Tom Hanks, ladies and gentlemen.
There we go.
Joanne Rogers kept the secrets and shared the love of her husband Fred with the world. She is originally from Florida, and so she too is one of the wise one-time visitors to your city that decided to put down roots. A visitor to Pittsburgh can easily see its majestic skyline, its confluence of the three rivers, its castle of glass, its cathedral of learning, and its many historic sites marked by plaques that tell of the importance of what happened here even before the founding of Fort Pitt. A visitor will sense just why so many of you chose to make your roots here in Pittsburgh, in Bloomfield, Greenfield, in Lawrenceville and Allentown, in Beltsuver and Carrick, in Morningside and Oakland, along the Strip and among the Mexican war streets, in Mount Troy, Mount Lebanon, and Mount Washington, and in the peaceful, open, and very special enclave called Squirrel Hill. The people of Pittsburgh live in good neighborhoods that do not divide the city, but that define it. A visitor here will learn of the unbreakable bond shared by all who wear the black and the gold. A connection stronger than the iron and steel forged in the furnaces of this city, here in the American heart. The visitor will know that Pittsburgh is a great city because Pittsburgh has been greatly tested. And in those trials, in your days of struggle, Pittsburgh has set an example of what can come next, and that what can come next can be good. In these past weeks, America and the world has been a visitor to your Iron City. Pittsburgh has shown us what does come next, what good comes when the people of Allegheny and the Monongahela show that they love their neighbors with no exceptions. Thank you, Pittsburgh, for your example, for your inspiration, and for your love of each other.
Terrific.
And now we're going to welcome the choir from Taylor Allgeist to lead us all in the singing of a song, I Think We All Know.
While they're coming in, I just want to say, let us replace guns with hugs.
Nice to meet you.
So nice to see you.
Despite the rain, it's a beautiful day.
It is. Look at the colors.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Would you be mine? Could you be mine?
It's a neighborly day in this neighborhood, a neighborly day in the community. Would you be mine? Could you be mine?
I have always wanted to have a neighbor just like you. I've always wanted to live in a neighborhood with you. So let's make the most of this beautiful day. Since we're together, we might as well say, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor?
Won't you please?
Oh, I can't do that.
So let's make the most of this beautiful day. Since we're together, we might as well say, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor?
Won't you please?
Won't you please? Please won't you be my neighbor?
Hey, you guys are good. Hey, warn a guy when you throw in some whistling. Thanks, guys. The Taylor Allgeist Choir.
Alderdice. Yes. Alderdice.
I have been corrected. As a visitor of Pittsburgh, I have been corrected. Taylor Alderdice Choir. Alderdice. All right, I got it.
Bye, guys.
Sorry. Nice rendition. Thank you, everybody. Bye, guys. I know, they're cold. And? Bye-bye, everybody.
There is a pride in this place, a pride that is unparalleled. An old steel town, nestled amongst hills and valleys, water and bridges.
Pittsburgh is a place where we can triumph over terrorism and tragedy, and where we can be the city of bridges that brings together what others want to divide.
Home to gray skies and a dialect unto itself. You see, pride doesn't come from a place. Pride comes from its people. This is a city that, quite literally, wears its emotions on its sleeves. I'm from Pittsburgh, and this is my badge of honor.
We will work together as one. We will defeat hate with love. We will be a city of compassion, welcoming to all people, no matter what your religion or where your family came from.
This is a region whose foundation was built with steel. Its support beams are made from technology and medicine, but sports Sports are the heart and soul. They keep us together.
I grew up in this city. When I was a teenager, Willie Stargell had a charge for us. We are family. This one's for Pittsburgh,
What we have built has been able to weather many storms. But no matter what we have faced, we've always come together, supported one another, and most importantly, we've always persevered.
It starts with speech. Words of hate are unwelcome in Pittsburgh.
We are Pittsburgh. We are proud. And we stand together.
Wow. Look at this. I want you to welcome some former players from the Pirates: Grant Jackson, Kent Tecalvi, Jim Rooker, Joe Bilodeau, and some Steelers: Colby Armstrong and Sweet Sean Sweeson. Also, yeah, man. Also want to introduce Mr. Clemente Jr., Franco Harris, and Brett Kiesel.
Hello, Pittsburgh. Well, for me, my Jewish brothers and sisters, I am here today because I am part of your community. I feel part of your family. I am your family. I'm a Puerto Rican Jew. I actually was part of your family before I was born. You know, the first winter coat that my father wore was given to him by Pearl Kantrowitz on Fair Oaks Street in Squirrel Hill. We've had an amazing relationship with Squirrel Hill. I went to Chatham College for summer camps, Shanley Park every summer. Today I go by the synagogue when I'm in my office in Shadyside to go to my favorite places to eat in Squirrel Hill. I believe we have shown the strength of the city, the love of our own people and the world towards us. I'm very proud to be a Puerto Rican. I'm very proud to be a Pittsburgher. When I was 6 weeks old, the first time I came here, I fell in love with the city, and you showed love to my family. We are now loved by the world. I hope this will never, ever happen again in the city, a city where I grew up, come in, doors open, safe, and still, for me, the best city in this country. God bless Pittsburgh. God bless America.
Thank you, Roberto. Great words, great words. Good afternoon, everyone. Interesting name, Tree of Life. Suggests a place to gather, a social place. Everyone is welcome, a place to share, to learn, to grow, and to love. A place to grow and a place to love. What happened is hard to understand. We have to realize the world around us. This sort of tragedy always happened somewhere else until it happened here. Western Pennsylvania, we are not as isolated as one might think. And we are stronger than one might think. The Tuskegee Airmen once said, "America is not perfect, but I'll hold her hand until she gets well." Let's extend a hand to everyone next to you. I'll hold her hand till she gets well. And Ronald Reagan said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on to them to do the same." The people of Western Pennsylvania are amazing. We will never give up. We will never lose our dreams. And Western Pennsylvania, more than ever, we need to be together. Let's continue to build from here in Western Pennsylvania. Each one of us can do more. Let's keep the words of Tree of Life alive. It is now a big part of our history. Remember, it is a place in our hearts for all of us to come together. Thank you.
Pittsburgh, good afternoon, neighbors. Good afternoon, neighbors. I'm humbled and honored to speak to you today. This is Pittsburgh. This is Pittsburgh, also known as the City of Champions. We have championship teams and a championship mentality that unites this city. Like our sports teams, our city is diverse. We have different religions. We have different skin color. We have different ethnicities, but we are united as one, as Pittsburghers. We must become champions of change. October 27th hit home for us, but this hate is happening around our country, our world, for far too long. We are stronger than hate. Our diversity is our strength. Spread love. Be kind. Take care of each other. Do our best. Say, "I love you." Say, "I'm sorry." We can do this, Pittsburgh. We must do this, Pittsburgh. Let the City of Champions become the City of Change. 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 The City of Change.
Hurt my hand. Well, I have this job where people think I'm heroic because stuntmen let me act like I can actually beat them up. So sometimes I'm considered a hero, and there's a word that's thrown around way too much. People idolize these guys, and they will all, to the person, tell you They're not heroes, but I'm going to introduce them now. I want to introduce Officer Daniel Meade. I want to introduce Officer Michael Smida, Officer Tyler Paschal. Thank you, fellas. Here's who's not here. We want to recognize Officer Anthony Burke, Officer Timothy Matson, and Officer John Person. And the families of Rabbi Daniel Legger, Andrea Wedner. And I just want to say that I want to take a second here to just read one more thing from David Sherman's article. And this is toward the end of the piece, and please go read it, because it's, if you're ready to cry, just read this. And during the day of Pittsburgh's suffering, so many of us, not only Jews like me, David, wished for that cry or human sound, or perhaps even some shard of routine to ward off the certainty that the day was anything but routine. Now a confession on this time of surpassing sin. Amid it all, I dropped by my home within the sound of the sirens and took the wet laundry out of the washer and placed it in the dryer. Something about the cleanliness amid the sordidness made me feel a need to do it. Later that night, my wife, a Polish Catholic from Buffalo, and I together put those clean sheets on the bed. Cindy Skrzycki went from the nuns at St. Matthew's School in East Ferry and Wyoming streets in Buffalo to the daily mass at Annunciation High School, and finally to the tutelage of the Jesuits at Canisius College. In classic Pittsburgh style, her daughter, our youngest, is a year from ordination as a rabbi. She has asked for a special moment of silence Monday morning at Hebrew Union College in Cincinnati. Our older daughter, Taylor, Alderdice High School class of 2006, but now far away in San Francisco, sent this sober text. Sleeping in my Pittsburgh shirt tonight. We all slept in our Pittsburgh shirts Saturday night, for there had been no shalom on Shabbat. It's a beautiful thing. Love you.
The Rosenthal family and the Wedner family
Okay.
join us?
We're being joined by the Rosenthal family and the Wedner family.
And the families of?
And the families of Rabbi Daniel Legger and Andrea Wedner. Thank you. That's it. Please give all these people a round of applause, loud. Thank you very much. I am really proud to announce Governor Tom Wolf, County Executive Rich Fitzgerald, and man, let's say thank you very, very much to Mayor Peduto for everything he's done.
Have at it, sir. All right, thank you. I am so proud of all of you who've come out on this dreary day to remember what happened in Squirrel Hill. I'm so sad by the event that has brought us all together here. Mayor Peduto, County Executive Fitzgerald, and all the clergy present from all faiths, and all of you, the entire city of Pittsburgh, I am honored to be here today. I'm honored to be here to grieve, to pray, to reflect, and to come together with you, and to commit to one another, to all of us, to each of us, that this kind of violence that took place on the holy grounds of the Tree of Life is not acceptable anywhere in Pennsylvania, anywhere in America. Like many of you, I am still reeling from that dark and hateful act. It continues to hang heavy on my soul, hangs heavy on my mind. This anti-Semitic attack in a synagogue was an attack on each and every one of us. It was an attack on our humanity. It was an attack on our values. It was an attack on the very way we live. So let us therefore resolve that this heinous act of bigotry will not define who we are, nor will it define how we treat each other. We have to recognize our common humanity. We must celebrate that. We must celebrate and rejoice in the distinctions that enrich our lives, but we must always come back to the common humanity that brings us together. These events have to remind us how much we need to depend on each other. The people from all over the world who reached out to offer solace and comfort, they remind us of that. The first responders who helped the victims, the neighbors and the strangers who reached out, and all of us who support one another as we mourn. Let's keep hold of this spirit of unity and togetherness. Let us ensure that these lives were not lost in vain. Let us come together as Pennsylvanians and seek peace, and let us seek the means to combat hatred and violence. After all, we are a commonwealth. We look out for each other everywhere in Pennsylvania. You all understand that here in Pittsburgh. You showed that as a city, and what the world saw from Pittsburgh was what community is all about. It's just not about thoughts and prayers. It was a bold and united rejection of hatred, a community drawing a line in the sand against hate. So on behalf of all Pennsylvanians, I join you in this moment of moral clarity. We have to stand together against hatred. We reject this violence as acceptable anywhere in our Commonwealth. So let us reaffirm our deep and abiding commitment to the simple notion of respect. We have a lot of work to do to combat hate and the anti-Semitism that is driving the violence in our world. We must ensure that we are using our resources to combat the spread of hatred, whether it's in the internet or in the shadows. We must redouble our efforts to reduce the ability for hateful people to commit mass murder. I know your leaders here understand this, and I commit to you that I will continue to work toward a Pennsylvania and an America where this violence is the abnormality it must be, where hatred is shunned and where hateful people are exposed, and where we protect and respect one another first and foremost. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. And as somebody who's lived here my entire life, I've never been so proud of a community and how they come together. A lot of us are proud of Pittsburgh because we stride apart the world stage when it comes to industry and technology, sports and arts, medicine, great universities, great institutions. But Pittsburgh, being a big city, is also a very small town where we all know each other, where we're all connected to each other, where we all are part of a larger and smaller community. And that largest neighborhood in the city of Pittsburgh is Squirrel Hill. And if you think Pittsburgh is a small town, Squirrel Hill is even a smaller, tighter-knit community. A place where people work together and play together, pray together and celebrate together, mourn together and be together. It doesn't matter where you worship. It doesn't matter where your ancestors came from across the globe. It doesn't matter the pigmentation of your skin or who you love. We know as Pittsburghers that love will conquer hate. We will continue along to be welcoming. The city of Bridges is a city that welcomes people from everywhere. Let's continue that spirit of togetherness, that spirit of love, and God bless.
We gather here today on the 80th anniversary of Kristallnacht, a day in which Jews in Germany, Austria, and Czechoslovakia saw the breaking of glass of businesses, saw the vandalism and the damage done through physical harm. Words of anti-Semitism reflected 80 years ago today in the first violent acts that would lead to the Holocaust. We gather here today just weeks after the killing of 2 African Americans because of their race at a grocery store outside of Louisville. We gather here today of the killing of 2 women because of their gender in Tallahassee. We gather here today of the killing of 12 in Thousand Oaks, California. We gather here today to say enough is enough, and hate against one is hate against all. We gather here today to say, let Pittsburgh and Thousand Oaks and Tallahassee and other cities around this country show what a sacrifice means and show what strength is about. That strength is not about how many guns you have. Strength is made by the compassion of your heart. And let us gather today to make sure as we move forward as one America, working on common sense reform that will end this type of violence.
This land is your land.
I was giving directions.
Hey,
See you, buddy.
all right. Now you don't want to hear me sing.
Now
I want to introduce these people. We're going to sing a song that, following that, you got to really listen to these lyrics. We all know them, we think, but man, they resonate now more than ever. I'm going to introduce Anconique. See? Yes? Yes. Anconique Wingfield, Liz Berlin, Henya, and Fat Man D.
This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Islands, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As I was walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Islands, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. I've roamed and rambled, I followed footsteps to sparkling sand.
the fog was lifting, a voice was chanting, this land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Islands, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. Nobody living can ever stop me as I go walking that freedom highway. Nobody living can make me turn back. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Islands, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. One more time. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Islands, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and
Thank you very much. While everyone's leaving the stage, I just want to say a few more words about your mayor. I've been around a little bit, and I've known a few people in positions of power, I guess you want to call it that. We're really lucky to have a guy like Bill Peduto right now. I got to tell you, he's just doing a great job. And as I said before, I'm telling you, the way this city is coming off, it's extraordinary. You should all hold your heads really, really high. I think we're ready now. I want to now take a minute. Yeah, good. To introduce the director of the Islamic Center of Pittsburgh, Wasi Muhammad. The Minister for Christian Association of Southwest Pittsburgh, Liddy Barlow. And of course, the guy who's just been terrific through this, Rabbi Myers from the Tree of Life. Are they nearby? I think we're waiting for them all to come up. Yeah? Yeah, we good? They're on their way. Do they have umbrellas? How about all these first responders and our policemen? How about these guys? Man, oh man. Oh, good. By the way, how about this? Hey. Hello, sir. Hello, sir. From the Ohio Valley and from Chicago and from Nassau County and New York City. And the folks from Pittsburgh are coming out, some of our first responders. And some of their families, I think. Yeah. If there's anybody who deserves a round of applause, it's these people.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much. And how about the Washington Capitol sending a check to the Tree of Life? How great was that? How classy is that? Not bad, man. Not bad. What do you need here, Pat? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Are they here? Once again, the director of the Islamic Center of Pittsburgh, Wasi Muhammad. The Minister for Christian Association of Southwest Pittsburgh, Liddy Barlow. And Rabbi Myers from the Tree of Life.
Hey, man.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. May peace and blessings be upon all of you. My name is Wasi Muhammad. I'm the Executive Director of the Islamic Center of Pittsburgh. So the last couple weeks were unforgettably terrible, but they were also very beautiful. They were terrible because we lost family. 11 family members were stolen from us. Half dozen others were almost taken. It's really, we cannot forget how much that'll hurt for the rest of our lives. We'll feel that. But it was also a special moment. And it was that because of how we responded as a city. Right after it happened, you could have seen stories of a terrible person all over the news and profiles, and that's what could have been the focus. But that's not what we saw. We saw beautiful stories of the victims and their families and the great things that they did, of the solidarity and love in Pittsburgh. Coming together like that is a very special thing, and the world needed to see that hope, and Pittsburgh provided it. Officers in EMS became heroes. Neighbors became brothers and sisters. Thousands gathered at vigils, and Pittsburgh came together. But I think it's important to note that I do understand that this does not mean that we achieved unity. This does not mean that we have no problems as a city. It does not mean that we are already the most livable city for all. We've worked really hard in this direction. I do understand that this is the steel city, and what happens with steel is fire, intense heat will strengthen it. And we've been made stronger, but we do have to recognize that those flames are felt a little bit more by some community than others, and we have to especially stand with our Jewish brothers and sisters in other marginalized communities. But something else to be noted. I'm Muslim, what my tradition teaches me is that when you see a rose, you must not focus only on the thorns. The beauty of what is shining through to everybody is the hopefulness, all of the positivity and the love, and the sacrifice of these victims and those wounded and those heroes. What that has afforded us is a moment of solidarity, but what we need is a movement of solidarity. If you see that hashtag 41Together, what is that about? It's about the concept of we have a lot of thorns left that need to be removed. The rose is beautiful and we all see it. The world sees how amazing Pittsburgh is. But what we need to become is a model to everybody to how to really build unity, how to really build solidarity, how to really build this movement. And what I've seen is the makings of that, all the love and support and unity you need to move in that direction, and real commitments to unity, real commitments to inclusion, and real commitments to each other, and the rest of the world can learn something from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I love it here. I'm proud to be from here. Thank you so much, everybody. Assalamu alaikum.
As Mayor Peduto reminded us, it was 80 years ago today that violent mobs, coordinated by Hitler's government, killed 91 Jewish people, destroyed 1,000 synagogues, and looted and vandalized Jewish homes, businesses, schools, and cemeteries. On Kristallnacht, neighbors stood by and did nothing. First responders stood by and did nothing. And Christians all over Germany stood by and did nothing. On October 27th, Pittsburgh experienced our own morning of broken glass. The vicious bigotry that drove the Nazis, an unfounded hatred millennia old, resurfaced in our own city. Anti-Semitic terror interrupted 3 congregations in the very midst of their prayers, seeking to kill and wound and traumatize and destroy. But this time, something was different. This time, neighbors did not stand aside. This time, first responders did not stand aside. And this time, Christians did not and will not stand aside. Yesterday, at the Jewish Community Center's Center for Loving Kindness and Civic Engagement, Christian Associates of Southwest Pennsylvania joined with our interfaith partners to sponsor We Have to Talk. Nearly 150 clergy and religious leaders entered into prayer, song, and conversation together. We represented at least 6 world religions and more than 19 different Christian denominations. We talked about the ways each of us has guided and consoled our congregations. We shared the connections that we feel between the shooting at Tree of Life and the violence that takes so many lives from our city's neighborhoods. And we talked about the other mass shootings, 307 so far this year, that pepper the map from Tallahassee to Thousand Oaks. The way ahead is complicated and challenging, with no easy answers or quick solutions. But still, we move forward with hope, and we move forward together. In the 14th century, the medieval Christian mystic Julian of Norwich wrote down what she heard in a vision from God. These words, "You shall not be overcome," were said very loudly and clearly, she wrote. God did not say, "You shall not be tormented, you shall not be troubled, you shall not be grieved." But God said, "You shall not be overcome." We shall not be overcome. Pittsburgh will not be overcome, and Pittsburgh will not stand aside. Amen.
I'm Rabbi Jeffrey Myers of Tree of Life, and I'm a survivor. I want to thank Pittsburgh's finest, because if it wasn't for Pittsburgh's finest, I wouldn't be standing here addressing you today. You've heard a lot of words today, but words are just the beginning. Hate is not just a word, it's an evil that corrodes from inside us. To me, hate is not merely a word, it's an obscenity, just like the other four-letter obscenities that we don't say in public. We need to erase the use of the word hate from our vocabulary, not use it ever. So if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, don't tell me you hate a certain team from the Northeast United States. Just don't like them. If you're a Penguin fan, don't tell me you hate the Stanley Cup champions from last year. You just don't like them. If you hate Brussels sprouts, no, you just don't like them. If you hate today's weather, well, duh, it's Pittsburgh, but you just don't like it. I pledge to you today that I will no longer ever utter the word hate in my vocabulary as I stand here. If you're with me, raise your hand that you will not say the word hate ever again. I might be an East Coaster, but today and forever, I am Pittsburgh. Thank you all.
Rabbi, this is true. I swear this is true. This is so great that you just said that. In my house, my mom went to Mass every morning. And there were a lot of things we weren't allowed to do in my house. But if you use, I'm not making it up. Some of my brothers and sisters are here, all 75 of them. We were not allowed to say hate. You couldn't say you hate something, because if you did, you would get the look. And the look just brought you to your knees. So he's right. Don't say it. More importantly, don't feel it. Patrick Jordan is the guy who coordinated all this. He needs a big round of applause. And all this stuff was donated from various folks in Pittsburgh. So I'm going to say goodbye, and I want to thank you again. But before I do, I want to introduce the Rodman Street Missionary Baptist Church Choir to sing us off with God Bless America. God bless you. Peace.
Land that
All right, as this ceremony in Pittsburgh wraps up on that rainy day, lots of people coming out to honor the victims of the synagogue shooting, and Tom Hanks actually opening that ceremony with a quite sort of poetic opening. He's there in Pittsburgh to film the Mr. Rogers movie for a few days or weeks or whatever he is there, and he was nice enough to contribute to that opening. So really just a beautiful ceremony, a coming together of the people of Pittsburgh. But I want to bring you over to some more hard-hitting news that we're talking about today. Those wildfires in California, they have really, according to the firefighters, quadrupled in size overnight, more than 8,000 acres affected. And our sister station in Los Angeles, Fox 11, who was just doing long all-day coverage of the mass shooting in at that bar, Borderline Bar and Grill, is now doing all-day coverage on these wildfires. So they have a host of reporters and cameras out there in the field. We're going to jump right in to their continued coverage of these fires.
County, all of these things happening at the same time. And it's 10:15 in the morning. Firefighters have been fighting this fire since the middle of the day yesterday.
And winds are only going to get worse, right, Maria? It's only going to get worse throughout the week.
Well, here's the good news about what's happening right now. I'm seeing the wind start to show some signs of weakening. Earlier, I mentioned it went from 52 mile per hour wind gusts down to about 49, down now about 5 more miles per hour. So we're starting to see signs of winds weakening. Now, that being said, it is still gusty. It is still in that range where it can help spread any fire rapidly. And we talk about explosive fire growth potential. It is there. High wind warning still in effect. Here's the latest. This is a Chesbrough reporting station that I look at. Not too far from those fires. The wind gusts now at 40 miles an hour. Temperatures starting to warm up a little bit near 70 miles an hour. But you can see the prevailing winds across Southern California near 30, 35 miles per hour. That means wind gusts are still clocking in near 50 to 60 miles an hour. Very poor air quality. And the sad news is this is throughout Southern California, not just Ventura, LA, in terms of the danger. Critical fire danger will continue throughout the day today into tonight. Red flag warnings. That means critical fire weather conditions will continue through at least tonight. The high wind warnings will actually be until about 6 p.m. tonight, which means the winds will start to abate a bit more during the evening and overnight hours. So we'll start to get some recovery. Now, here's the bad news. Sunset is coming up at 4:53. And you know what happened yesterday? That fire exploded out of control during the evening and overnight hours. High pressure is locked in across the Southwest, so we're going to stay with this weather pattern through next week. A little bit of easing tomorrow, but Sunday into Monday, we're looking at those winds again and another round of gusty, strong Santa Ana winds. So critical fire weather conditions will continue into next week.
But wouldn't you say, Maria, when those winds calm down, if even for a second, that's the crucial time frame that these firefighters can move in, because they can jump on this fire and get ahead of it.
And you know they're monitoring this. They have a whole staff that just does this. They look at all of the weather conditions. But you have to remember the fire creates its own weather, and that is very difficult to predict.
And we saw that video earlier from Sandra Endo when she was driving through Canaan Road, and it became completely dark because the fire basically created its entire own forecast. I want to go back to Gigi Graciette, who's been all over the place. One thing I'm interested in, as somebody who's spent lived in this area, Agora Hills, Westlake, Calabasas have had a lot of close calls over the years, but this particular area I don't think has had a really bad fire as compared to Malibu, which has had several bad fires that have burned home. I wonder, Gigi, if maybe some of the folks there have had sort of the boy who cried wolf relationship with fire in the past, didn't think that it was so bad, and now they're starting to realize, oh my God, this fire's right here.
Well, we were hearing, Alex, about at least one homeowner over on Sassafras who reportedly called 911 to tell firefighters he or she had stayed behind in the home, and the fire had now enveloped the home. And that homeowner, a resident, was trying to fight the fire with a garden hose and was asking for help. So we are seeing people stay behind. It's understandable. We understand how difficult it is to leave your home. But then we see these fires moving so quickly, like the Woolsey fire here. If you're just tuning in, this is the 31,000 block of Glenbridge here in Westlake Village. The fire now burning immediately in the backyards. They're not even yards. It's sort of just a drop down the hillside. They don't really have backyards here. It's just a drop down the hill, and that hillside is burning right now. Firefighters are arriving on the scene. They're getting ready to make their move, but all of these homes right now are threatened. We saw Malibu Search and Rescue coming through, making sure that everybody had evacuated. They were using loudspeakers, running out, knocking on people's doors. We didn't see any residents coming out of this block. So we believe all these folks did indeed heed the warnings and they got out in time. But we're very concerned for these homes right here as the fire just continues to lick the backyard, just go up the hillside, burning up the hill towards these houses. We can hear firefighters shouting at the house next door, which the fire is actually already in the little backyard. We can see, or those are some bushes right there near their fence line. It's already crawled up there. So they're starting over there. Engines continue to pull up, but resources stretched thin. These men and women just working as hard as they can with what they have. And fire officials are telling most of these firefighters on the front lines, we just don't have any more resources to send you. And it is a heartbreaking thing to hear these firefighters asking for additional help, and there just is no additional help to send them. And now there you see, I believe it's LA County firefighters going down the hillside. They're trying to determine exactly what the situation is, what resources they need, and what they can do to save these homes. There it is, Los Angeles County, Los Angeles Fire Department. So this is a city fire. This is Los Angeles City Fire. Even though we're not in the city, we're seeing this mutual aid situation. Kern County just went down the street. So all these battalions, they're all working together. And this is the house next door, and this is where firefighters are staged in their backyard. We can see they've already pulled a hose line down there, trying desperately to save these homes. 31,440 Glenbridge here in Westlake Village, and we see fire trucks now staged in people's driveways down the street as Tony Butita gives you a live look at the firefight here and the race to save these homes in Westlake Village as that fire continues to crawl up the hill.
What's the brush clearance like there?
It appears to be very good, and that's probably what's helping firefighters right now as they move in. The brush clearance does look good, but there are some trees right next to the house, and you can see them pulling their hoses right now. LA City Fire hard at work trying to save this structure. And you're watching all this happen live. These brave men and women working so hard with the resources they have, which are so limited right now.
And you can only imagine, you know, it's a good thing that we don't see any of these residents, obviously, because this is danger and they're in harm's way. But you can only imagine them sitting at home right now watching this, pointing out their properties, right. And probably thanking the firefighters and the brave men and women who are out there working quickly. Look at that. Yeah. Gigi, what's going on? Is he having a problem?
They're just trying to pull that hose as far as they can, but it doesn't seem to go any further than what they have right now. So they're trying to get the water started right now. They're doing the best they can. There's only 2 firefighters here. These are LA City firefighters. Again, a mutual aid situation, which means that we've got firefighters in Ventura County from around the Southland, LA County. A lot of this happening right on the border of LA County, of course, in Ventura County. We were at another home earlier where firefighters just driving by spotted another small smoldering fire. They jumped out of their trucks, they got to it, and they saved that home. That homeowner will probably never know. That homeowner will come home, wonder who chopped up the front of their house and why, but those firefighters saved that home also. So there's going to be countless stories of homes saved. I know we're going to focus a lot on the numbers of homes lost, but the homes saved because of the work of these men and women is just amazing. And here come more firefighters, and they've actually gotten some extra hose. And the hoses keeps getting caught on something. I'm going to move these garbage cans back for them so they can get through. We are standing well out of their way to not interfere in the firefighting operations, of course, just in case folks at home are wondering where we are standing. We are standing off to a side where they don't need to, they're not using this part of the property that we're standing on right now.
Incredible images there of these men and women fearlessly trying to attack these fires. And there's a flame that you showed earlier, Gigi, right over the edge of that patio. That's what they're so just quickly trying to douse right now with that hose. I do want to remind everybody and just give a recap of evacuation centers, because as you mentioned, Gigi, they have been trying to get everybody out of that neighborhood in Westlake Village. So Thousand Oaks High School, it is closing at 12 p.m. So if you do need an evacuation center, the Thousand Oaks High School is still open for another hour and a half or so. That's on 2323 North Moore Park Road in Thousand Oaks. The Teen Center, the Thousand Oaks Teen Center, that's where Stephanie Stanton is right now. It is at capacity, but she has spoken to the Red Cross there. They said, we are not going to turn anybody away. We will make sure you are accommodated. And then, of course, the Rancho Santa Susana Recreation Center, that is not at capacity. You can head there. That's 5005 Unit C, Los Angeles Avenue in Simi Valley.
Wow, this video is just captivating as we watch these firefighters, men and women, continue to work. This is also, you know, we saw them having trouble getting more slack for the fire hoses, but this is also why Agora Hills earlier had said, you know, if you're staying behind, do not use the irrigation system, because the last thing you want to do is take away from their resources.
Well, and you also get a sense in real time how quickly they need to assess the situation. I mean, in the 10 minutes or so that we've been watching Gigi's picture, they've arrived there, they sort of set up their plan, and they got the hose back there and they've gone to work. I mean, there's not a lot of time to think. You just have to act, and that's why their extraordinary training that they've done for so many years helps to prepare them for that. So we are going to continue to watch this picture. We're going to hope that they're able to be successful in saving this house, which they've so far been able to do. But we also have seen fires not too far from there in Agora Hills. That's where Mario Ramirez is. Oh, what a picture. Mario.
Yeah, and Alex, still no sign of the homeowner here. This is the 5800 block of Stonecrest Drive. Also another fire at Ridgebrook. And that's just around the corner from where we are. So we're starting to see more residents come out here. And I want to quickly show you straight west from this direction here in Agora Hills towards the Westlake Village area. Look at all that smoke billowing up. So that is obviously still some activity just west of from where we are. And the plume of smoke making its way across the sky, really intense. So, yeah, we know fire crews are staged throughout for this Woolsey fire. And, John, you were here last night as we were taking a look at some of this damage here. Walk us through what it was like last night, and then I understand the fire was out and came back this morning.
So my son and I drove over here to check on a friend of ours' house right behind us, and we saw this house on fire. My son and I parked the vehicle, his vehicle. He hopped out, grabbed the hose like this gentleman is right now, and just the only thing that was on fire was the front door and the right window. And the next thing that happened was my son was spraying it down, trying to put it out, and then at 2:30 in the morning, and then the house like blew up. Like I don't know what the hell it was, but we got the heck out of here as soon as it happened. Yeah.
And what's amazing is we have one county deputy out here, LA County Sheriff's deputy, with a hose. Then we have two neighbors, two residents who took action themselves and came out here. And John, you're pretty much doing the same thing. This is like a community effort here to put out these fires and keep an eye out on all these homes.
Well, yes, we live 2 blocks away, and we've been here all night fighting fires. My 2 older boys, Christian Williams and Hunter Williams, and then one of my neighbors 2 doors down, Marios, were the only ones on our street that stayed back. And we fought fire. We were watering down our houses when we saw a palm tree catch on fire. And then my son and I, Hunter and I, ran over there, and he hopped up on the wall and grabbed the nearest hose, the neighbor's hose, and started putting out the palm tree because the palm frond, the embers were blowing into the next door neighbor's house, into their attic access point, which is what gets the fire going in the first place. Is up in that.
And like this situation here, you think it's gone, or the fire's taken care of, and then you see a house just burst into flames, and it just picks up quickly like this.
So after this house blew up, the fire department came and they hit it pretty hard, and this car was still okay last night at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then this morning. And this house was fine too. They had it mostly out, and it reignited. So that's what we're getting here is the second wind of this fire.
Yeah, like you said, a second wind. So you can never be too careful when something's out. Just fire crews have been keeping an eye on everything they can, and obviously resources are thin, so they're going to different locations. They had been here before, left, and then this reignited. And we talked to the guy at the end of the street with the fire hose on this burning house, and he says that he lives around the corner. He saw this, he just decided to grab a hose, grab what he could, and start watering down this hose. And then you see right behind me another resident and then a sheriff's deputy. So really an amazing effort from the community as they wait for more fire crews to come out and see what happens with all this. But a great effort.
All right, Mario Ramirez, thank you so much. As the neighborhood continues, and that's sort of the danger. Sometimes when these fires are in mop-up phases, there continues to be embers, and it's so windy that they can catch flames. Rick, where are you right now? Oh, I'm sorry. This is.
We're just looking at an aerial shot of the fire and the flames. And just to recap, there's been 75,000 homes evacuated throughout the entire area across the state, though. Bigger picture, it's 156, 157,000. A lot of the shelters that we've been announcing are at capacity. Zuma Beach, though, plenty of room out there where Sandra Endo is. This year, Westlake Village is what we're looking at, where you can see those hot spots. Gigi reporting for us from the 3100 block of Glen Bridge, Westlake Village on the ground. Some of the shots we were seeing were incredible as the firefighters, like you described it, Alex, watching them in real time work very quickly. And did you see how fast they were able to get more slack for that fire hose?
They are running and, you know, trying to save as many homes as possible. Do want to give you an update. City of Malibu just updated. The mandatory evacuation is now in effect for all of the city of Malibu, all areas.
And unincorporated areas of Malibu. So it's not just the city of Malibu, but there's a lot of areas along the coast that are not technically city residents. So that has been expanded.
Right. And all areas south of the 101 freeway from Ventura County line to Les Virgenes, Malibu Canyon, southward to the ocean. All of this because of the Woolsey fire. And they say to please use the PCH to evacuate, avoid the canyons. We saw some images from Sandra Endo trying to get through Cannon Road on her way to Zuma Beach, where she is now. An incredible video. It looked like it was nighttime because of the amount of smoke and plume over her.
Which is what Maria was saying and explaining, is that really Mother Nature has a way of creating its own forecast. So when you look at the numbers, right, when you look at the numbers, you're able to tell the forecast, but there's no telling what these fires are going to do.
No, absolutely. And just to reiterate that mandatory evacuation, this is now encompassing all of the unincorporated areas of Malibu to the area of the Getty Villa, which was never talked about right now. So this is really encompassing a larger area there near the coast. This is probably due to this spotting. The winds can carry an ember a mile or more downwind. So we are looking at this dangerous situation continuing through the rest of the morning into this evening.
And Gina Silva has just moved into Westlake Village. That is her picture right there. Some incredible shots of flames. Where exactly are you, Gina?
Oh, we're on Richford Drive off of Lindero Canyon in Westlake, and you can see that this fire now is moving in this direction. To the right of us here, there are several homes here, multi-million-dollar homes that are in danger at this point, and you can see those flames. They are moving so fast. We were up a little bit further, and we had to move because the flames got so close. It looks like the flames are jumping the canyon here and heading in this direction. So far, 30,000 homes are being threatened. That number continues to grow. As you know, the Woolsey fire is massive, and the wind is so strong, and it continues to blow the flames in all kinds of directions. It's hard to breathe out here, Alex, I'll tell you that. More than 8,000 acres have burned so far. And the community here, there are a lot of folks that are at the bottom of this road. They're taking pictures. They're sort of just hanging out, watching the flames. We saw many people leaving Viewpoint Drive here, exiting the area, evacuating because they know this is dangerous. Firefighters have been telling us, law enforcement they've been telling us, please leave the area. There are mandatory evacuations in place. Don't wait until the last minute. Pack up your bags and go. If you're at the bottom, like those folks are, they're doing okay. They've got already their bags packed and they're getting ready to move. But look at these flames. It feels so hot where we are right now, and they could easily jump. So we're going to go ahead and get out of here.
Definitely.
And I'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
Just a second ago, she panned over to those people, and you saw them, and then she panned over again, and they were gone in the smoke. So please get out of there, Gina. Stay safe. That incredible image, again, that's in Westlake Village.
And this is why they park, so that you're facing away from the flames as they move out.
That's what fire officials say as well for residents.
And Gina is somebody who has covered this for years and years, and to see her running like that is proof of just how dangerous this is. We will hear from Gina as soon as she is safe and in a place that we can talk to her. We will make sure that she's okay. Thankfully, she knew when the time was to move. As we continue to see this just large swath of smoke, which is going to be seen. We showed earlier, Marla showed us from space, you can see, because there's just so much smoke. We see flames threatening homes right now. This is the Lindero Canyon area in Westlake Village, right by where I went to middle school, Lindero Canyon Middle School. We've seen flames in Calabasas. We've seen flames in Malibu. We've seen flames in Agora Hills. We've seen dozens of homes that have burned, more homes continuing to burn.
Yeah, 75,000 in LA and Ventura counties. And the wildfire has burned more than 10,000 acres. At last check, it was 0% containment. Let's go back to Gina. Gina, can you hear us? Scary moments.
Yeah.
We saw you running from the flames, but that's a perfect example of what firefighters are up against.
Absolutely, and they move so fast. And what we're seeing, you look at those flames, they're just... They're so strong. It's just raging here. And when we came out here running, we saw the residents that have been taking pictures and watching the flames crying. You know, sir?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
My house is right up here and it's on fire. I don't know what to say. I'm shocked.
Yeah, I saw one of your neighbors just crying and out of control. And
unreal. There's no words to describe it. My house is gone.
No, your house is still okay, but it is in danger. Did you pack your belongings?
We did.
You did?
We did, yes.
And where's your vehicle, sir?
We're right over here.
Okay, good. Yeah, because this is just not safe.
Yeah, my house is right up here up the hill on the corner.
How long have you lived here?
7 years.
7 years?
Yes.
Have you dealt with anything like this before?
No, there was a small brush fire maybe 3 years ago. It was put out pretty quickly, but nothing like this. I can imagine this in my worst nightmare.
Yeah. And that's what all of the residents here are dealing with, the realization that their homes could be going up in flames. Sir, how long have you lived here?
20 years.
20 years. And where's your property?
I'm on Canner Hill, right at the corner of Richford and Canner Hill.
And I can't imagine what you must be going through.
I have 4 kids. They're all safe. I'm safe. It's just a house, right?
That's good attitude. But I can still feel your emotion and your sadness.
It's awful. We've lived here for 20 years. Ever since these homes were built, I think in the 70s, we've never had a fire back here. So, it happens. It sucks.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. When did you get the notice to evacuate?
Well, I think we had the evacuation notice from this morning. So we just kind of sat tight until, we saw it coming through the canyon, then we took off. So.
Yeah. 75,000 homes are right now under evacuation.
Yeah.
This is a massive fire.
It's huge. Yeah. It's terrible.
Was that your wife?
Yeah, she's not doing well.
No, I felt so awful for her because I can see the emotion and it's your property. It's your life.
It is.
yes, in and around this area here, near Agura, Westlake Village, nearing 40 to 50 miles an hour. The winds are still going to be very powerful as we head into the remainder of the day into this evening. Looking at some of the other current winds, Thousand Oaks, 30 miles per hour, Fillmore, 33, Malibu down closer to the coast, near 30 miles an hour. Very poor air quality, needless to say. Please stay indoors. You have those residents there, rightfully so. I know they're concerned about their homes, but please heed the warnings and just evacuate. Looking at Orange County, the danger is there as well. Those winds are very gusty as well in Orange County. Out towards the Inland Empire, not as bad, but you can see it is nearing 25 to 30 miles an hour. When we talk about critical fire weather conditions and this explosive fire growth, which we have been witnessing since last night, yesterday to today, red flag warnings, that's what it means. Critical fire weather conditions will continue through at least tonight until about 10 o'clock. High wind warnings, though. This is the slightly better news. It is expected to die down a little bit after 6 o'clock. So we are looking at those winds to abate a little bit. But generally speaking, this ridge of high pressure will stay with us. It'll weaken slightly tonight into tomorrow, but it will re-strengthen by Sunday into Monday. So bottom line, we are looking at very strong, dangerous winds through next week. There is no real big relief in sight, so please be aware of what's going on around you. The traffic is, of course, a huge problem, not just for in and around those areas where the fires are at. For more details, Samada's got a look at that.
Oh, yes, and of course, we've been tracking our traffic conditions across that area due to those fires. Wanted to reiterate the fact that the northbound and southbound directions of the 101, beginning on the westbound 101 at Las Virgenes. We understand now it's been pushed to Parkway Calabasas is closed. And also we understand that the eastbound direction on the 101 at Reyes Adobe in Agora Hills also closed. And that has been closed for quite some time, again, due to the Woolsey fire that was making its approach southbound. And that direction, that portion of the freeway was closed earlier due to the fact that that is where the fire jumped the freeway, right there at Liberty Canyon, in between those two areas. We also wanted to touch on PCH because PCH, Malibu residents have been heeding everyone's advice to evacuate the area. PCH going southbound towards Santa Monica is still very heavy, though I am looking at the conditions. Before, it was a solid red line. Now you're seeing at least some yellow, so travels through that stretch are slowly improving. But look at Topanga Canyon along the 27, up and down the 27. People, of course, are taking those roadways and jamming that up as well. Just a heads up, it's not closed, just a lot of people in the area trying to get to where they need to go. Also, we want to touch on an earlier fire in the Griffith Park area. Sigler in effect until further notice. This is going to be on the off-ramps only. The eastbound 134 off-ramp closed. The westbound 134 at Zoo off-ramp is also closed. I'm sorry, eastbound 134 at Riverside off-ramp closed. And again, westbound direction of the 134 at Zoo Drive also closed. Northbound 5 at Zoo off-ramp is also closed. All that is due to an earlier fire still working the area, and that hence the Sigler in effect until further notice. Other areas across, of course, Southern California traffic conditions, there is a lot of green. 405 coming from West LA down into Orange County looks really great. If you're looking at outbound routes along the 210, the 10, and the 60 looking pretty good. Again, going back to the Sigler on the 101 stretch through Agora Hills, that, of course, is going to be the Sigler in effect until further notice. Stay away from the area, and because of the fire, lots of smoke in the area, low visibility. If you have not evacuated yet, go ahead and do so. Sending back for you.
All right, thank you so much, Samada. Let's go to Mario Ramirez now. He has been in Agora Hills. Is that where you still are?
Yeah, still here on the 5800 block of Stonecrest. And as far as evacuations go, this entire area was under a mandatory evacuation. And from what we've heard, they still are. But several residents have come back to check up on homes. Now, we'll show you the damage here, but I quickly want to mention another house on fire on Ridgebrook. You see the smoke just past these homes in front of us. And to the left, more smoke billowing west. So you can see this neighborhood. There's a lot of activity, and we are at this home on Stonecrest, where it's a complete loss. So we've got a car in front that's also on fire, and from what we understand, this was on fire last night. Fire crews came out here, put it out, and then it reignited. Hunter, you were here and you helped out. So what can you guys tell us about what happened here?
Last night when I got here, actually, it was just a little fire right here in the bushes, and I tried getting it out, and then all of a sudden I just hear it blow up, you know, and then I got all nervous and stuff, so I started running and warned the firemen that was up there already getting like the fire that was out. It was just so scary. I had to leave really fast, and it was crazy. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So thanks, Hunter, and we appreciate you jumping in, taking action, staying safe, of course. But you can see LA County Fire now. This is the first crew that we've seen here arriving. They're assessing the scene. Obviously, they'll jump in and take over. But these people, residents, they're neighbors. They don't know who the homeowner is. So that says a lot about what they're doing out here. They don't know who lives here, how many people, right? You guys don't know who lives here or anything like that.
No. We know the neighbor.
You know the neighbors next door. So
across the way.
why did you guys decide to jump in and do all this?
I don't want my house to light up. I don't want embers to jump over.
Right. Okay. And
Thanks to help.
Since we've been out here, you haven't had a break. You've been on this nonstop. So definitely a lot of effort from neighbors out here. What do you think this says about the community as you guys are dealing with this?
We love this community. It's a wonderful community. And last night we had to evacuate, but everybody came together and helped each other as we evacuating.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Great. So you heard that. We love this community. I mean, that really sticks with me as we're looking at all this damage. Another hose on the house here. So again, just to give you a wrap up as we look at this damage really quickly of some of the other areas that we've seen. North Ranch Park, we saw 3 homes destroyed on Churchwood Drive. We've been down North Westlake Boulevard and Canaan. We've seen some active flames there, not too much damage. Indian Circle Drive, we saw a home destroyed. Another one, residents were trying to protect their structure. And then again here, Stonecrest, and then Ridgebrook around the corner. 2 more homes. It looks like they're a complete loss. So for now, reporting live. We'll send it back to you, but we'll keep you posted here from this scene.
This is just so weird for me because I grew up about a minute and a half from here. My cousin is a block from there. My best friend growing up was 2 blocks from there.
Alex, have you heard from any of them, any of your family out there? Is everyone okay?
Everybody evacuated last night. They're all okay, but they're all nervous about their homes, and seeing images like this just make them more nervous. But the most important thing, and we stress this over and over again, is to get out with your life. And thankfully, so far today, despite all these homes burning, despite all of these flames in so many different areas, we have had no deaths and no serious injuries.
Right.
And
that's
firefighters
the
as well.
part. Yeah, and firefighters as well.
Right.
Who are most susceptible to that because they are running into the fire. We're telling everybody to evacuate, but they are running into it to save lives, save homes. I do want to ask Maria, obviously you've been a meteorologist here in Southern California for years. Fall, October, we know this is the season.
This is the season, and it brings me back to last year. Not too far from now, it was the first week of December, if I remember correctly, when we saw that Thomas fire erupt. This is the time of year where we get the weather components that are up there, high pressure, lower pressure to our north. It is the shift in our weather, and when we get that during the fall months, this is when we typically get that offshore flow, those strong Santa Ana winds. But if you've lived here in Southern California, as long as many have, it's really year-round when we talk about fire danger, right? But these winds, the most important component of allowing these fires to spread, that's the bad news. We continue to see the strong gusty winds today, and I just checked the reports again. These reporting stations, we're still seeing the consistent wind gusts of 40 to 50 miles an hour. So the forecast is still on track for these dangerous winds to continue at least through the afternoon.
And how does this compare to other years, the fire season in other years around this time?
What is fire season now,
right now it's year-round.
It's really year-round. And we did talk about this. We had a fire weather watch that was put into effect a few days ago. Yesterday, obviously, we were all about the shooting, and we couldn't talk in great lengths about the red flag warnings, but we were able to warn you about these weather conditions. And in fact, it came to fruition, and it will continue on through next week, at least in terms of the dry, windy conditions.
And speaking of that shooting, yesterday we were all on the air. Our colleague Stephanie Stanton was at what became the Family Reunification Center. Today it's become an evacuation center and also the home of some of the press conferences today. Stephanie, what are you seeing now?
Hello again. Well, it is still very busy here. We are seeing people coming and going. We're seeing community members, businesses, dropping off supplies for the folks here. We are awaiting a hot lunch for everyone here, but we did get a peek inside. So we want to show you guys that. The Red Cross was gracious enough to give us a little tour just to give people a sense of what it's like inside. When you walk in, you'll see an open area, kind of a lobby area. There's a lot of people sitting there. There was a television on, so they were watching wall-to-wall fire coverage. I think the TV went out, I was told, so I'm not sure if that's back up and running, but people have been watching that. They've been staying informed, trying to figure out what's going on. Then when you move into a larger area, it looks like a gymnasium type area, you see all the cots set up. And this shelter holds 250 people. They are at capacity, but as we've been saying, the Red Cross says they are not turning anybody away. They will find space for people that need it. But we saw people kind of chilling, some people sleeping on their cots. We saw a family with an adorable little baby sleeping. We saw people with their pets inside. So just, you know, people just trying to get some rest. As you might imagine, they're completely exhausted. And then we moved over to a recreation center area. There were pool tables there. People were hanging out. People were laughing and chit-chatting. And I think that's the thing, is that everyone here is just trying to lift each other up and just really do the best they can in this kind of situation. So it was good to take a look inside, and we thought it was good to show that as well, because, you know, if you're evacuated, a lot of people, the last place they want to be is a shelter. You know, if they're told you got to go to a shelter, they might be thinking like, oh, I don't want to go to a shelter. I don't want to be in a shelter. But when you go inside, you see that it's good people. It's everyday people. It's your neighbors, people kind of banding together and just sort of making the best of a bad situation. And so I think, you know, showing the inside might make people, you know, a little more open to coming to a shelter if in fact they need to be in a shelter. So we're happy and grateful that the Red Cross allowed us to peek inside. But let's talk a little bit more about the shelters, because there are several of them set up around this area. So if you are not, you know, you can't get in here, you can go right next door. We have a list for you. I'm not sure if you're seeing that list, but in addition to that, they have the senior center here right next door. That's also available. Thousand Oaks High School is a shelter area that's been set up. And then you have the Rancho Santa Susana Recreation Center. We also have Taft Charter High School. That's also on the shelter list. The Hanson Dam Equestrian Center, and that is where folks with large animals, horses, are being encouraged to go, because at capacity is Pierce College. And so don't go to Pierce College because they are not accepting anymore. And the LA County Animal Services, they are also at capacity. So if you do have horses or large animals, your best bet at this point is to go to the Hanson Dam Recreation Center. So we're going to be here at the shelter hanging out, watching more and more donations come in, and just waiting here until these folks are told that they can go back into their homes. Back to you guys.
Stephanie, thank you. And I want to mention one more evacuation center that opened up, Palisades Charter High School, 15777 Bowdoin Street. So that's for Malibu residents that need an evacuation center.
And with that, let's go upstairs on the Simi Valley side. Rick Dickert overhead. Rick.
Northern flank of the fire, the Woolsey fire here, raging in the hills just above Simi Valley. Again, this is the far northern flank of the fire. We're talking about the southern flank, that dangerous flank with that massive loom up over the Santa Monica Mountains, rapidly spreading southward towards the coast, towards Malibu. Well, this is the far northern flank, miles to the north, burning in the backyards of these homes in Simi Valley off of First Street and Long Canyon. You can see the flames primarily burning away from the homes. There are some air resources in play here. That winding road there you see center right side of your screen there, that is First Street there that comes south from the 118 freeway, the Ronald Reagan freeway, up through the hills. And these flames aren't too far from the Ronald Reagan Library and Museum. I checked the latest conditions in Simi Valley at a remote weather station. The relative humidity is down to just 10%. A north wind sustained at 21 miles per hour. It looks much stronger, though, there in the canyons. You can see how the flames are just roaring there, and the smoke as well. And again, remember, just one ember can be picked up from this location and be transported a mile or even more away and deposited onto some other dry fuels, starting a spot fire. We saw that late yesterday into the overnight hours. That's what started those fires in those neighborhoods between this point on the northern flank and now the far southern flank. A good 18-mile range between north and south now. To the east, the flank, the hills bordering the San Fernando Valley, the border of LA and Ventura County, and the far western flank close to the 23 through Moore Park, Oak Park, and towards Thousand Oaks there. You can see the active flames from our vantage point up here in Skyfox, and then we'll widen out and we will show you that plume that is to our south that is burning over the Santa Monica Mountains. Visibility is becoming a factor for us. We're going to have to kind of fly around the periphery of the fire. First and foremost, we want to give those air assets as much room, as much space and safety as possible so they can get in here and save property. Again, so far so good. We're not hearing of any significant injuries to firefighters or to residents at this point, but we are seeing a very dangerous situation here, even on the far northern flank. Let me put into perspective the Ronald Reagan Library with where these flames are burning. We have the reservoir over here. That's on the west side of the 23. There's the Reagan Library right there. You have the golf course there behind it, Wood Ranch, and then we'll widen out and pan up to the left and show you where these active flames are. There's the 23 that winds around from the 118 freeway. And I'll tell you what, I'm looking down at the 118 freeway, and it is feeling the effects of that 101 closure. We've been giving it as an alternate route IAP since the 4 o'clock hour this morning when Skyfox launched, and sure enough, it is building up quite a bit. You can take Los Angeles Street, which is an extension of the 118 freeway, connect with the 118 freeway, and make your way in and out of Ventura County, between Ventura County and LA County. We'll continue to watch this northern flank from up here in Skyfox. Reporting live, I'm Rick Dickert, back in the studio.
Wow,
Rick, thank you.
So Ventura County Fire Department just put out this message on social media. I just wanted to remind folks about the air quality. We obviously continue to say that it's poor, but they're saying avoid prolonged time outside or strenuous activity. If you suffer from respiratory issues, it may be best to move inside. You know, oftentimes, I know, Maria, you talked about this. It's easier said than done when you're trying to defend your stuff.
And you know, if you're looking out the window and you say, well, the fires aren't near me, but it's the fine particulate matter. It's the stuff that you can't see. It's actually quite damaging to you and your lungs. So please heed that warning in terms of air quality. So the fire may be far away from you, but that fire, the smoke is getting blown by these winds. So it's getting blown downwind toward the ocean and south as well into the rest of LA County.
We're talking about things like running outside, playing soccer, doing a lot of things that you could potentially avoid for the day. Sometimes people end up doing them anyways, right in the middle of fire zones, and they're putting themselves at risk.
Let me give you an update on the LA Zoo, because I know there's been a lot of people tweeting me and asking what's the situation out there. Remember, there was a small brush fire that firefighters were dealing with. The reports came in that this was around the Griffith Park area. The LA Zoo has tweeted out that the staff has evacuated bird show animals and some of their smaller primates from the property. They also confirmed they turned on the sprinklers. They started hosing the hillside, but it doesn't appear that the smoke is causing issues for any of the animals. The staff is obviously monitoring what's happening there. But unfortunately, given the limited access to the Griffith Park area, because there's a lot of closures around the area, the zoo will be closed today to the public, which is probably your best bet, given the fact that we just said you don't want to be outside, despite the fact that you may not think that this fire is affecting you or that you're close to it.
And speaking of your own animals, a couple of evacuation areas. I know a lot of people have their pets, and a lot of evacuation centers aren't accepting pets. You can go to the Hanson Dam Equestrian Center. That's on 11127 Orcas Avenue in Lakeview Terrace. They are accepting larger animals as well. So not just, you know, the dogs and cats, but larger animals
You've got the Taft High School as well.
Taft High School right now is at capacity. So that's the Taft Charter High School in Woodland Hills. That an update from Ventura County Emergency.com says that it's at capacity right now.
You know what's amazing? We have covered so many fires, I have, and gone to evacuation centers, and oftentimes there's like 2 or 3 people there. The fact that multiple evacuation centers are at capacity is a proof of just how big this fire is and just how many people are under evacuation orders and how many people are taking this seriously, because we have seen so many fires
By the way,
already burned.
just a reminder,
Burned.
we talked about this earlier, but Airbnb has opened up many of their host homes. So if you cannot get to one of these shelters, check in and see if there are some that you can get to, and even some of them will accept animals. So that is another alternative for you if you are looking for down the road somewhere to go.
We thank them for doing that, and Apple was contributing as well.
Right. Tim Cook has been tweeting out. He's monitoring the situation. Here's what he said: praying for the safety of our neighbors. We're grateful to the firefighters and first responders working to keep everyone safe. Apple is donating to the relief efforts of both Northern and Southern California, which is where we should probably reset here at 10:59. This is an issue that is not just here in the Southland. This is the entire state of California right now is under state of emergency.
And there's a note that I've just gotten that a National Security Guard, a National Guard, 100 military police are now headed to Northern California to help evacuate people from a wildfire up there. The military now doing that up there. It's going to be interesting to see if we may see something like that similar in Ventura and LA counties to get the military involved because we're just so stretched. So it is now 11 a.m. We continue our continuous coverage, which has now been going for some 15 hours or so. Here's the very latest. Acting Governor Gavin Newsom has issued a state of emergency for LA and Ventura counties due to the Hill and Woolsey fires. More than 10,000 acres have now burned, the fire threatening to burn all the way to the Pacific Ocean.
And the fire is 0% contained. 148,000 people in Ventura and Los Angeles counties are expected to be under mandatory evacuations very shortly. And now this includes 45,000 in Ventura County, 43,000 in LA County, and an additional 60,000 between the 101 freeway and the Pacific Ocean.
An unknown number of structures are damaged, but officials are not able to provide a specific count right now. What they say is it'll be significant. The best news out of all this is that no civilian or firefighter injuries have been reported so far. Officials are thanking residents for heeding all the warnings to evacuate. There's a number of them in place. More than 2,000 firefighters are working to contain the blaze. 2,000 personnel, we should say. That includes firefighters and those behind the scenes. And again, 0% contained. The last time we heard from them was a few hours ago. So maybe as this continues to progress, the day we'll have more information.
And in terms of daylight that we have left, we have about 6 hours left until sunset, which is coming up at 4:53. The winds are going to continue to be quite strong and gusty, and then they will abate a little bit. It's been very consistent in the last couple of hours. The winds have still been gusting near 40 miles an hour. These are just the prevailing winds. As you know, these fires can create their own weather, and we've seen it pop up, and they can behave quite erratically. So the winds, though, are going to continue to be quite gusty. Occasionally, some of those isolated areas getting up to near 70 miles an hour. But look at the sustained winds near Fillmore, Thousand Oaks, near 30 to 40 miles an hour. Santa Clarita near 35 miles per hour. And it's strong all the way to the coast. Again, very poor air quality. There's a little pocket in the San Fernando Valley near where Griffith Park was at, where the winds are a little bit lighter, but bigger danger south into Orange County, the Inland Empire as well. We have those red flag warnings and high wind warnings continuing. Now, the wind warnings are going to go until about 6 o'clock this evening. Red flag warnings, however, is still about 10 p.m. tonight. I won't be surprised if that gets extended through the rest of the weekend into next week, however. So that means parking restrictions. You know the drill when there are red flag warnings in effect. Fire danger will continue. High pressure will continue to be locked into the southwest. So the dynamics are in place where we will continue to see the fire danger through next week. We get a little break, I think, late tonight into tomorrow in terms of just slightly weaker winds. And then the winds are due to pick up again. And the forecast models have been right on this so far. Sunday into Monday, another round of rather strong, gusty Santa Ana winds. So critical fire weather conditions. That's what red flag warnings mean. Explosive fire growth potential. The smallest spark can cause a fire, and under these weather conditions can spread rapidly. So please be aware of what you're doing. No power tools, please, outside. Beware of your cigarette butts. And if you're planning to tow a vehicle, don't. And of course, stay indoors to avoid all of this toxic air. Let's go to Samada and check in on the roads. There are a lot of road closures. What's going on, Samada?
Okay, and the biggest road closure. Good morning, Mary. Good morning, everyone. We've been focused on this area, of course, all morning long, right centered where the fire is, the Woolsey fire. Calabasas on the 101 Ventura Freeway. Parkway Calabasas is closed. Again, the westbound 101. The eastbound direction on the 101 at Reyes Adobe continues to be closed during this time. You can see all that red in that section from Calabasas to Agora. Avoid that area if at all possible. We also wanted to point your attention down to PCH. Malibu, we've been hearing all morning, has been evacuated due to the fire threat. Conditions on the southbound side of PCH heading into Santa Monica. Look how slow it is. It was a whole lot worse before. Things are slowly starting to improve, but it's still a very tough drive. There's also been reports of traffic signal defect right after Topanga Canyon, slowing traffic down. We also wanted to point out another SIG alert. This was due to an earlier fire in the Griffith Park area. SIG alert, closures here. Eastbound 134 at Riverside. Off-ramp is closed. The westbound 134 at Zoo off-ramp is also closed. We also want to point out the northbound direction of the 5 at Zoo. Also, the off-ramp is closed. Heads up, everyone. Back to you.
All right, Samana, we have some bad news to pass along. The good news here in Southern California so far is that we have no deaths, no injuries. But in Northern California, where they're battling a fire, we just got word that 5 people have been killed by flames. They were in their cars and they were killed by flames. Proof of the power of fire and why, when they say get out, it is so important to get out, because these fires can flare up at any moment, including what we're seeing right now at that picture. Stephanie Stanton has been at the evacuation center where you're supposed to go to be safe, to get away from the flames. They usually put these in places where they think there's not a chance of a fire, and now you're seeing fire.
I'm not going anywhere. Yeah, absolutely, Alex. And keep in mind as well, this evacuation center is right across the street from the staging area where we had the press briefing and the command post area. So as you said, they usually place those some distance away from the fire so that they know that personnel and everyone is safe. What you're looking at is some smoke. A few minutes ago, we did see some active flame, and I think you might be able to see some active flame peeking in between the trees there. We saw this fire spark up. I would say we're probably a half a mile to a mile away from the evacuation center. And so we started to see some people come outside. We started to see some activity, and everybody started looking to the hillside, and this is what they saw. And as you might imagine, there was a lot of fear because people have come here to be safe. This is a full evacuation center at complete capacity. And the last thing anybody wants to see is evacuating the evacuation center. So there's a lot of stress right now. There's a lot of tension. People are on pins and needles. We're hearing sirens. We're seeing that firefighters we saw a rush of firefighters heading towards that hillside to try to put that fire out. We are seeing what looks like some white smoke. And as you know, white smoke is a good sign because that means that the fire is getting put out. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I did talk to officials inside to ask them about this fire. What is the concern? Because remember, we are actually east of the 23, and as you know, the Santa Anas are blowing west. So technically, this fire is blowing directly towards us. So I did talk to the officials. I asked them about that. They said that right now they are in very close contact with the Ventura County Emergency Services. They are keeping them updated minute by minute. There has been no decision as to whether or not this area is going to be evacuated. We haven't heard anything like that, but they are very closely monitoring this. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. We're going to keep our eyes on it as well. And of course, if anything changes, we'll bring that to you.
And Stephanie, have you spoken to anybody inside the shelter? Do they know how close a fire is to the evacuation center they are in right now?
We estimated about a half a mile to a mile. We spoke to one gentleman here. He believes that fire is about a mile away. But again, we don't have an exact distance, and I'd have to look at a map, and I haven't done that yet. But, you know, when you're standing here, I can tell you just from a visual perspective, when you're standing here, it looks a little close for comfort, I'll be honest with you. And think about it, especially given everything that these folks have been through. Many of them were woken up in the middle of the night, rushing over here to the evacuation center with nothing more than the clothes on their back, getting their families out, getting their pets out, getting their children out. So when you think about the stress and what they've already gone through, to see that fire and that smoke on that hillside within, you know, a very close distance to the evacuation center, it is very stressful. So we're going to keep our eyes on it. If it gets closer, if we hear anything about having to evacuate this location, we will certainly bring that to you guys.
And not to mention, most of those people were at a vigil last night for the shooting that happened the night before in the middle of the night, when so many of us, including you, Stephanie, and all of us here, were woken up in the middle of the night. So what a traumatic time for the people of Thousand Oaks, who are such good folks, but it not being able to catch a break here. Stephanie, thank you. Stay on top of that. We'll get back to you. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I would say, you know, you guys don't forget about the first responders, because when I was over at that briefing, I was talking to some of them, and one of the first responders, you know, we were just kind of in conversation, can't believe all this is happening. And he was like, oh yeah, I'm on about 20 minutes of sleep, so forgive me if if I'm stuttering. And it just struck me right then and there, thinking, wow, we forget that, you know, because we in the media have been out here as well, but then we look at them and we forget that so many of these first responders, they're dealing with the mass shooting. Now they're dealing with these fires. So they are on 20 minutes of sleep, an hour of sleep, and yet they have to go on. So it's really incredible when you think about it. And we really can't forget their heroism and their dedication in all of this.
Right, and not to mention they too need their time to mourn, which they haven't had the opportunity to do so because, as we've been watching, they're working around the clock. Stephanie, we'll be checking back with you. I want to reiterate as well, you know, wherever you are, the other thing is many people are being connected through social media. I was just watching a conversation between Gigi and a couple other people saying, hey, I'm in the Malibu area. Where do I go from here? If you can safely do so, send us pictures or maybe send us video of what you're seeing, what's happening right outside your window. We want to thank you if you've already done so. I've received a lot of pictures from the Valley area. Even Burbank police at one point put out a call and said, hey, we're receiving a lot of reports of smoke. People can see it from as far away as the Valley, but there is no threat there. We encourage you to use the hashtag MyFoxLA if you can, of course. If that's out of the question because it's unsafe, don't do that. But again, the hashtag MyFoxLA. All right, let's go to Westlake Village where we find Gina, who is hopefully in a much safer area. Gina, what are you seeing?
Doesn't look like it.
Not exactly. We are in Westlake, and just take a look behind me. This is at Glenbridge Road in Westlake, and the flames there are getting so close to the homes in this neighborhood. Firefighters are lining up this entire street here, doing structure protection. Let me ask this gentleman. Sir, what is it that you will be doing right now?
Well, currently we have a canyon down below here, and canyon has fire that's actually moving pretty rapidly. It's caught some heavy fuel right here. These large trees, and we're anticipating it to light off, and we're getting ready to bring some more fire engines up here to protect these structures right here if we do have an issue with houses starting to catch fire.
Has everyone left this area?
From my understanding, there were mandatory evacuations. From what I've seen so far, I've worked on this street for about the last hour, and it seems like most of the residents have evacuated.
Yeah, we did see some residents down the road, but at least on this top of the hill, it seems like everyone is gone, and that's a good thing. It's got to be frustrating for you when people refuse to leave.
Well, all you can do is ask them, and you can't force them sometimes, but you can hopefully tell them to be as safe as they can, give them some clear direction on what to do if something happens. And then as a fire department, knowing that they're there, we try to keep a closer eye on them.
The direction of the winds, how strong this fire is, what's your big concern?
Our biggest concern, obviously, is when we get something burning, you have a lot of ember cast. And the ember cast starts to go with the wind, and it starts to catch other things on fire. It gets inside the attic vents of the homes, and that's where we start losing homes.
Right now, there are more than 10,000 acres that have burned. More are burning, 0% containment. It is bad.
Yeah, it's bad. The problem is we have a large fire up north right now, so we have a lot of resources that are committed to a lot of different fires. So the firefighters you see here from Los Angeles Fire Department, they've been on the fire line since about 5:30 last night, nonstop.
Gosh, look at that. Isn't that a little too close to this truck?
Hey, Pete, go ahead and move it up.
And this is what firefighters are dealing with throughout the entire area here in Westlake, in Malibu. It's just a bad situation here, as I said.
If it happens, and we'll commit if it happens.
What do you do at this point?
Well, right now we just have to wait. We're not going to be able to put this fire out with the tree right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to wait till the fire takes the fuel from that tree, and it's either going to pass us and leave and pass the home, or if something we're unlucky and it happens to catch the home on fire, we're here to start attacking the house.
I'm feeling those embers.
Yeah, the embers,
they're hot.
they do. The helicopters were in the air. Hopefully we'll get an anticipated water drop here, but again, all resources are we're short.
And you know, this is the fire that started yesterday afternoon, and it has grown dramatically. This morning we saw the fire jump the 101 freeway, and that was a big concern for you guys. Did not want it to get into the Santa Monica Mountains.
Correct. We do have fire on this side north of the 101. We have fires still on the south side of the 101, and from my understanding, it's all the way to the 23 freeway. So we've got a lot of fire activity going on in multiple areas.
You guys do such an amazing job. This might be a dumb question for a firefighter, but do you ever get scared?
You always get scared. I mean, you're dealing with Mother Nature here, but the reality is our training that we do throughout our career and our day-to-day basis, we train for these things, and it's our intent to be as safe as we can, but that's the business we're in, is to take risks.
All right. What is your name, sir?
Dean Zipperman. I'm a battalion chief, strike team leader for the Los Angeles Fire Department.
Thank you very much for all you do, for all your work, and for speaking with us, giving us all of that information. All right, as you can see here, they've got their hands full. We're on Glenbridge Road in Westlake, and these flames are just out of control. They're very close to the homes in this neighborhood. There's a home that's like the backyard of a home here. Again, Glenbridge Road is where firefighters are battling this one in Westlake. More than 10,000 acres have burned. More are burning. 0% containment. Firefighters from different agencies are here, and it's not, Mother Nature's not helping at all. The weather is bad. The winds are out of control, and it's a wind-driven fire. As you can see, it's just been shifting, and it's going all over the place. We were in Malibu because it was moving in that direction. We tried to cross Canaan Road. I posted this video on Instagram where you can see that it was impossible to cross because the flames were just in both directions. It's just a bad situation. Firefighters, they do an amazing job, but they've got a really difficult one here. And at this point, it's 0% contained. I'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
Gene, I just want to give a quick shout out to you and to your photographer, Kevin Scaler, and to all of our crews, Gigi, Mario, Stephanie, Sandra, who are all going on about hour 12 of their workday after working about 15, 20 hours yesterday in getting this important information out to our viewers. A lot of people are desperate to know, how is their home? How can they be? In California, reporters are able to go some places where the general public aren't, because it's important to get the information out to the general public. And Gina, you and all of our reporters are doing a great public service this morning under enormous strength. So thank you for all of the efforts this morning.
And I loved that question that she asked, asking him, are you afraid? Because it seems like they have so much courage. These firefighters go in to these fires and they make it look easy, and that they're fearless, and they go in there doing their job and doing their service to their communities. So we thank them, of course, and of course our entire staff. We want to head up to Rick Dickert. He is in Sky Fox, and you are over some new hotspots in Thousand Oaks, Rick?
That's exactly right. On the far western flank of this Woolsey fire. Down below there, that's Los Cerritos Middle School. No classes today as these hotspots are burning around Thousand Oaks, up towards Simi Valley. We're looking just to the east of the 23, and we'll show you the 23. It is open. In fact, you can take the 23 from the 101.
I've been through the ones on Mulholland twice. We're in good shape. I'm just fearful of this house right here. If it's coming around this corner like it looks like it is.
So there you see it. People doing they can to try to keep their homes safe in the face of this tremendous wind. Look at the direction of the smoke.
It's on.
Peter, Suzanne, see how quickly the smoke is going through there. And that's really what we were talking about earlier. With wind like this, everything changes in a matter of minutes. And they, as we just heard the builder telling us, he said that it's been swirling around a lot, so it changes direction a lot. Hard to stay in front of it, hard to anticipate it. Peter, here comes a drop. And you can see why they want to slow it down here. There are a lot of homes. These are, I can tell you, at least $3-4 million homes up here.
You know that it's coming around this side?
Just give me 1 second. We're talking. Could I have your name again?
Larry Martins.
Larry Martin is the builder. Tell me what you're saying.
Well, I'm just afraid that if it's coming around this slope here, that's prior to our house with this wind, if it catches that house, it'd be too much heat for our house probably. That's what we're hoping that it doesn't come up this side. And I can't tell, there's so much smoke. But we've got these stupid fires all around here that are just keep coming up.
Swirling. You know, the problem again also is that when people are working so hard to try to save their homes, they put themselves at risk as well. We're up at the very top of this ridge. There's nothing left for it to burn up here. So for the moment, we're okay. But the problem is we saw a lot of people in their homes in this area, and it changes so quickly, as you can imagine. You put yourself in serious risk. Look at the wind. You can see how powerful the wind is, and that's the story of this fire.
On?
All right.
I wish they would get on this thing and aim up, but maybe for whatever reason it can't be there.
This afternoon, so hopefully we'll work on getting some new numbers until then. And you can imagine, Alex, don't you feel as well, you know, in the past when we've had these major fires, we often see a lot of these media briefings within a few hours. In this case, I would beg to say that I think they're not able to do that because they're out there, right, on the line of fire. They're so stretched thin.
They're so busy trying to fight the fire and deal with that. And then we saw that there's a fire that's coming close to the area where they were briefing, which is so unusual. Usually they put those so far away so that they'll never be in damage. Maria.
I'm hearing that Mario is in Agoura Hills. Mario, what are you seeing now?
Yeah, so this house behind me here on the 50
I know that's what they were looking for. The human factor was nice. That was great for the gentleman. You don't mind when I do that, right? Not at all. I love that. Start walking away. I love that. We need to get IMB on for you so you know when you're up. Alright. The problem is my headset keeps falling off. Oh, really? It keeps falling off. I gotta put my other ones on. I don't like my little iPhone one because these on it. Oh, thank you very much. I got stung last time. On the last fire or yesterday? Yesterday? Last one?
Here for 22 years. We raised our 3 daughters here. We all know each other, and we will all step in for each other.
Ever seen a fire like this since you've been here?
I have not. We saw one back about, I think it was like 15 years ago, but nothing like this. Nothing like this. So
Yeah.
this to us is pretty much engulfed an entire community, you know, from Oak Park to Thousand Oaks to this area here in Agora. So it's sad to see these things, but I don't think anything really compares to what happened yesterday's tragedy at Borderline. So all of this is replaceable, and really our hearts really go out to those that are really suffering daily with yesterday's tragedy.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the fact is, at least from what we've been reporting, we haven't seen any injuries from firefighters or civilians, so that